G'day folks, AoS Coach here, and we are here talking about Gloomspite Gitz, not any Gloomspite Gitz. Games Workshop, Wawa sent me an upside down box that I'll turn around. Yes, I'm from Australia, from upside down land. I'll get clipped that in a second. But Gitz is back. We have a bunch of new models, a new Battletome. And I'm here with Colt Hegardt. He is the Sunsteala Snarlboss from Let's Not YouTube. Also, House of Hobbies has done incredibly well. I think you are top, if not one of the top performers on the ITC for Gitz. Michael Rausch, I see you. I know you're number one, but you also have been playing other armies like Flesh Eater Court. So I'm going to give Colt the mantle right now. Dominant performances at Old Town Raw into 2024. Also, you did a good run at the Las Vegas Open literally the other week. And we've got a lot to talk about, and anyone who's seen these previews, let me put the little T's and C's in front. First and foremost, we don't have points. So everything that we're going to share with you right now is contextual. You know, we might completely miss the mark, and the new Doom Diver is 500 points. The Chariots could be 30 points. We don't know, so we'll put our best analysis on this and kind of share where we're at and what we think it needs to be. And you know that those opinions might change in the near future when those points do drop on Warhammer Community. This box is going to be available through pre-order. I don't know when the actual Battletome is going to be released independently. I would imagine probably a couple of weeks. So this is basically previewing the Gitmob box army set, which if you are thinking about buying, you can get it from Warpfire Minis in the USA, Element Games in the UK, or Gap Games in Australia. Links below. You'd help the channel. Much appreciated. Or you can join up on Patreon or YouTube. Either way, Games Workshop did send it to me in advance, and now that's out of the way, I want to get into the meat and potatoes, or the squigs and the trogs of the Gloomspite Gitz. Colt, g'day, welcome, introduce yourself, and what got you into one of the best armies in the game. That's a fact.
Oh, I mean, absolutely a fact, right? I mean, Warhammer Fantasy or Sigmar, it wouldn't be the same without goblins, right? Goblins running around. And as far as, meat and potatoes, I mean, I guess squigs kind of look like potatoes. So, I mean, that tracks. I like that. I like that. I mean, I've called them bubble gum before, like gumballs, but, potatoes, I can get behind it. As far as what got me into them, it's probably this dude. So the Dank Old Trog, I mean, just an amazing model. It's just, in general, though, with Gitz, just all the models are so flavorful. But I also like that Gitz are kind of in their own realm of destruction, right? Because destruction, I mean, the joke, right, is always be charging, but I've never met a kind of a good destruction player that's always charging, right? I think with Gitz and, the stinky swamp orcs, they're a little less cool, but they kind of do it too. It's all about, well, I want to play destruction. I want to have these big monsters, these powerful swings with, a brain, right? Because Gitz, they're sneaky, they're smart, they're cunning, right? So being able to make use of Gobblepalooza, these other tools. So it's like destruction, but with tricks.
I love that you and I are probably so very different in our thinking. Not that I love to charge, by the way. I've literally just finished, like 24 hours ago, I was playing at CanCon, Australia's biggest event. Went 4-1, top 8 with Gargants.
Congratulations.
With Crack, thank you. But more importantly, it was Kragnos. And why I share it is because you're always charging.
Always be charging, right? Exactly.
But I'm a Moon Clan kind of guy, right? I love my stabbers. I love my squigs. We were just talking before we get it started. Yes, folks, hang with me for another minute. I know you want me to get into the good stuff, but I'm so excited to see the return of, yes, it's not the Doom Diver, but this possibly could be a thematical Doom Diver. Those rules are sexy. What were your thoughts initially of the rules overall without ruining Christmas for everybody, and what we're going to show off in the Battletome?
Absolutely, let's do it.
No, what was your high level thoughts? Like, just like when I gave you everything, like what was your initial thinking? And is this something that you're excited about, nervous, concerned? Where are you at?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So am I excited? Yes. I think overall Gitz they're kind of in a place where they're a good army, and aspects of them were kind of too good, and other aspects were not good enough. Like right when the book came out, everyone was immediately like, hey, these rocket Troggus are insane. So reading over the new rules and trying to see how do we take the rest of the army and kind of bring it up, there's a few misses, right? There's a few things where I'm like, well, this could have gotten a little bit more, and we'll see those, like maybe with the Spider Clan and the Moonfang. And there's, some other stuff that's brand new that complements Gitz in a way that they've never had, right? That obviously the catapult we're going to talk about quite a bit. We're going to talk about kind of the Gitmob and what they add. Overall, I'd say we're kind of on. I'm really excited to see on the new stuff. We lost a couple really important things, and we'll talk about those. But overall, I'm excited. I think that probably a slight increase to power, as long as you're making use of the tricks correctly. With one big notable exception in the spell lore that we have to. I mean, that's going to be the elephant in the room. But I think overall, I'm excited, and there's some really positive changes. It's gonna and they're really gonna change the way that list building works.
Yeah, this is not Auric War Clans book, folks. So don't think that you've gone backwards and it's basically the same book. Obviously, we got new models, and like I've only just started painting them. But here's the new hero. He's really cool. The new chariot. I've been really enjoying the chariots. And these
Chariots are sweet.
the bigger boys are actually quite solid. Like if you look at how big they are, they're actually quite a solid little unit. So that's what comes in the box, by the way. I think you get 6 of the bigger wolves, you get 2 chariots, you get the hero. That's what's in the box. So if you're thinking of Gitmob, or I think if you look at the Battletome and how it's been restructured and things like that, I'm certainly honestly looking at thinking about how I add some Gitmob to my, because it does bring a different dimension, and you'll probably see it in the rules. But Colt, let's stop teasing everyone. Let's actually bring up the rules. And if anyone's watched my previews in the past, they'll know I've got a little bit of a structure. This structure has changed a little bit because of the way that it's not like little tweaks here and there. They've actually fundamentally changed some of our things. And let's actually open up the Christmas present and start off with our battle traits. Now, people will be very familiar with the bad moon, how it worked in the past, where you had a bad moon token, you put it on the, one quadrant of the board, then the moon kind of moved progressively through the game. The Loon Shrine would give you an aura. Your Malevolent Maelstrom, well, the Moon would give you a bit of a buff. There was a whole bunch of things, and obviously, you had to time where the buffs came. Scraggy could hold it, yada, yada, yada. That's changed. That's changed. Now, I won't tell you if it's changed for good or changed for bad. It's just changed, right? So let's think about how we think of the changes and what this possibly means. So I'll explain a little bit, and then I'll get Colt's perspective and how he's thinking about this. So let's talk about the moon. The moon is not starting in a quadrant of the board, and it's not going to be progressing through the board, right? So it's not like worrying about quadrants, not worrying about getting into the center and holding it in the center as long as possible. You'll notice that there is 4 sides of the moon. So I want to just set this context up before we look at the rules. You've got Grinnin, you've got Scowlin, you've got Sulkin, you've got Kakin. You've got 4 different sides of the moon. And you'll notice that on the image here on the screen, that there are 4 key, characters. You've got your Troggoth, your Squigs, your Gitmobs, and then your non-Squig moon clans and spiders. Why that's important is essentially the 2 sides of the moon. So, for example, the Grinnin and the Scowlin most benefits Troggoths. Your Squigs are most benefited by the Scowlin and Sulkin, the Gitmob, etc., etc. So let's read out the rules, and then we can look at what you actually get for the rules. So you must use this ability at the start of the battle round. If multiple players are commanding a Gloomspite Gitz army, then instead at the start of the battle round, there's a roll-off. If it's the first battle round, you pick a face of the bad moon. So I get to pick Scowlin, Grinnin, Sulkin, or Kakin. If it's not the first battle round, then it will move the sequence. So the moon is going to be moving through the game. It affects the board, so it's no longer starting in quadrants. Throw that out the window. We are now looking at 4 sides, almost like the Nurgle wheel for anyone who might recall the Nurgle wheel moving through the game. What happens during the bad moon? And by the way, spoiler, there are ways to interact and change the moon. So know that there's still like Scraggot shenanigans. What do you get? So while your part of your army is affected by the light of the bad moon, you'll see Frothing Zealots is when a bad moon is on Kakin or Grinnin, you'll add 5 to the control score of friendly non-Squig moon clan units. The Spiderfang Venom really hasn't changed, but it's the bad moon Kakin or Grinnin. Your Spiderfang units will do those crit hits on unmodified 5s. Your Moonlit Hide. So this one is a change with your Grinnin and Scowlin, where your Troggoths are going to subtract 1 from the Ren characteristics of combats that attack them, so or target them. So it's no longer +1 to save. It's now reducing Rend by 1 for attacks going into the Troggoths. Your Lunar Squig, that's also a change where the Bad Moon Scowlin or Sulkin, you will instead of determining the movement characteristic, which is random, you can just set it to 4. The last one, and a very new one, is while the Bad Moon is Sulkin or Cacklin, it's not Kakin, it's Cacklin, friendly Gitmob units can charge and shoot even if they retreated. So a lot of fundamental changes. Let's break it down a little bit. Colt, thoughts so far?
So I think the biggest fundamental change, and this is great, I think for casual players, but just, I mean, anybody, but especially casual players, is that the moon is on the whole board all the time. So it might not sound like a big change, but it really is a huge change, right? Even from a kind of a competitive standpoint, often you have to kind of move your resources. And the idea is like, let's say, especially with trolls, you always have to try and keep your trolls in the moon at all times. But a lot of times you don't have a lot of things to go grab the flanks or be on the side. So there would be plenty of times where you'd have a unit of 3 trolls or maybe a unit of 6 trolls that be caught out, right? Or maybe you move just a little bit too far. All of a sudden, now you're out of your Loon Shrine aura. So that's gone. You don't really have to worry about that anymore, in that you don't have to worry about getting caught out of your quarter or just being barely over the quarter or having to remove a model to get back in the quarter. So that's great. It makes the game just feel a lot better, and the measuring feel a lot better because you're spending a lot less time measuring auras, which wastes time, right? And ultimately, we want to waste times. We want to avoid wasting time as much as possible. As far as the actual buffs and the order of the moon, there's a ton to kind of unpack here. Let's start with the bad. Obviously, the troll buff is worse, right? Nobody's going to argue that -1 rend is, better than +1 to save. Is it way worse? Is it so much worse? It's gonna destroy a lot of things. I mean, unless you're playing against Feck, probably not. most cases, -1 rend is the same as +1 to save. Obviously, it's worse for those other cases, but it's one of those things where it's worse. I think the more notable thing is it makes your trolls way more susceptible to shooting than they ever were before. Because it's just combat attacks now, not just a blanket +1 to save, trolls now have a weakness to shooting that they didn't have before. So now you can actually kind of counterplay those crazy saves a little bit more if you do have any form of guns in your army, right? So again, trolls tankiness definitely went down. And again, the rend versus the save doesn't matter as much as just losing the ability to get that +1 to save against shooting attacks. The good is a couple things, right? I mean, combining Spiderfang with MoonClan, great. I'm glad both of those fit into one, because I would hate to be in a situation where this wheel had 5 prongs instead of 4. And now I have to have a turn of Spiderfang and a turn of MoonClan. Spiderfang, they're still pretty rare as far as army compositions. They've never really felt strong or oppressive. So if they had their own wheel that made this harder to get access to the things, quote unquote, you want, right? It would just be a feels bad. And this is a solution that Spiderfang players like as well, because odds are you're gonna have some things in your army that benefit from the +5 to OC, right? I've won a number of competitive games where I have a Gabapalooza and it's +5 OC, means it's gonna go take an objective all by itself, right? Because then it's at what, like 15 OC. It's crazy how much objective control a Gabapalooza has when in the light of the moon. And again, you're always in the light of the moon. This also is going to do a couple weird things with your army composition, because now you have to kind of ask yourself, okay, I'm building an army, and let's say I'm using, like, let's make this simple. Let's say I'm only using trolls, right? So I'm definitely going to now say, well, I have to start at either Grinnin or Kakin, right? Do I expect my opponent to get into me first turn? Maybe they're really slow like Nurgle, so okay, maybe I go Kakin because I want to waste my first turn. And then I want turns 2 and 3 to be board-wide troll protection. And that's how you're going to have to think about this: is when do I want my buffs? Typically, the answer is going to be turns 1, 2, and 3, because those are the turns where most of the fighting is going to happen. So you really have to kind of plan around it that way. Additionally, if you want to do kind of a mixed force, it comes down to, like, let's say if I want to do trolls plus squigs, well, then maybe I start at Grinnin, because maybe I move my trolls up turn 1, get the defensive buffs, and turn 2 is when I need my squigs to be fast. I don't need my squigs to be fast on turn 1 typically. So I'll wait, right? Start myself on Grinning, turn 2, then I can move them up. Speaking of squigs, definitely another plus is I will take this rule over the moon rule we had for squigs any day. Rerolling a random move is bad. I mean, you can roll a 1 into a 1, and then this whole plan you came up with fails. If I know I can get a guaranteed 7 and then a rabble rouser for a guaranteed 6 more for a running charge and go a guaranteed 13, that's great than having to hope that 13 doesn't go down to a 10, right? Which is the minimum it could be. Because then all of a sudden your charges get a lot harder, especially if you're not running somebody like Kragnos to shore up that charge difference. Or if you're playing something like, I don't know, something miserable to play against like Khorne, where they can just like, I'm just going to murderless you if you're within 9 inches. So have fun with that. So again, Lunar Squigs, huge buff. And then finally, you know, with that same list composition, you also are in this awkward place of it's going to be a little weird to build a list, let's say, of 2 components that are completely opposite of the wheel. If I want to build only a Trog plus Gitmob army, I'm going to be in an awkward position because I probably don't really want to. I'm basically going to be fighting myself over this moon, and I'm going to have to do like 40 chess in my mind to find out where do I want to start this moon to have optimal against this Lumineth Realm Lords army to make sure my Gitmob get what they want at the right time and my Trogs get what they want at the right time, which probably just means they're going to get shot off by Sentinels anyway. Why'd I pick Lumineth? I don't get any defense now anymore against shooting, so maybe trolls aren't the way against Lumineth. But anyway, overall, the troll nerf to shooting is probably the biggest nerf. But I do think the moon being board wide all game and controllable, like you know, in the player's hand to control where that goes is huge. And we haven't even talked about the way you can manipulate the moon. I'm just pretending as if that doesn't exist and I can just control what turn 2 and what turn 3 is. And then finally, we have to talk about Gitmob, right? It's a brand new one. So Gitmob, the bad mood is Sulkin or Kakin, right? Friendly Gitmob units can charge and shoot, even if they use a retreat ability. We'll see where this comes up. I think this is super important on a couple models. And, you know, especially because we're dealing with a ton of chariots. It's very important on one thing in particular we'll come back to, but when we do come back to, I'll mention that. But a good ability. You can never discount retreat and charge. Retreat and charge is valuable. It's always going to be good, especially because it's retreat and charge or shoot, right? A huge distinction there. But sorry, there's a little bit of a ramble there.
No, man, no. Like, it's good. No, appreciate it. And again, like you're a top performing player. I really want to put this into context, right? So maybe a couple of things I'll add or maybe reinforce, right?
Please.
So I would first off, I would agree that the board control. I've been playing Gitz before Gitz were Gitz. Like I was running Moon Clan when Moon Clan was like a faction before the first book dropped, right? So I've been through all of the different phases of Moon Clan. I remember back in the day where the moon started on the side of the board. So it was turn 1. It had no effect. And I remember one game where I had 4 turns in a row of rolling a 1 and I never got the moon on the board. I've been through all the cycles. Yes, I like that there was interaction with the moon. I get it. But you are 100% correct of how annoying it can be where I'd be pre-measuring going, right, I really want to move my unit up into a particular quadrant. But one idiot, because the rules were wholly within, meant that I couldn't get them. I had to hold them back that 1 inch from charging, like when I got really aggressive with my squig herd, or my Moon Clan was going to try to take over particular parts of the objective. Well, I had to, again, make sure that I wasn't partially out of my whole territory. So I think that's really good. I agree with you in regards to thinking about your army a little differently. Now, for the folks who play mono build, so I'm all the squigs, all the trogs, all the Moon Clan, you're thinking about how do I make the most of that 2 cycles. So if I was playing, for example, let's say I was playing squigs, I would probably start off with Grinnin, because turn 1, maybe I don't need the rule, or maybe I do, whatever it is, right? If I don't need the rule in turn 1, I start 1 before. If I'm like, right, my squigs are going to go alpha, I'm going to start off with that immediate 4. Cool, I start off and I get 2 solid turns of what I need. Now, there is ways to manipulate the moon, as we've alluded to, so we'll get to that in near future. But or if I'm playing, for example, this might actually encourage me to go, right, well, I'm going to play Troggoths and maybe a little bit of Moon Clan. Turn 1, I start off with, let's say, Kakelin, sorry, where I move up my screens of Moon Clan stabbers or shooters. I'm OC +5. That's gone up, by the way. That used to be +3. It's now +5. Yeah. So, you know, my 20 stabbers have taken up the board. They can take damage and really control those early objectives. As my Troggoths move forward, they take advantage turn 2, turn 3, possibly turn 4. So there's, I guess, the way you think of your army is like, do I want to go mono? Do I think about who complements and then what's best to complement me? Because I'm going to want to add the chariots, but to your point, how does that interact with the Troggoths of Gitmob and Troggoth? And how important are these rules going to be? Maybe I just get a couple of chariots and that just gives me that take the flanks and something like Caesar Center, and I don't care about the rule. Anyway, long story short, I think we both agree. Yes, I agree with you as well on the Troggoths. That hurts a little bit, but they're a little bit too good. I think I worry that their points were just going to go up and up and up and make them not viable.
Right.
And obviously the Troggoths as well. It makes them a bit crap when it comes to like high volume, low attacks. So like let's say, for example, I played literally yesterday like that list of 40 ghouls. Right. 40 ghouls going into my Trogs, that's a lot of attacks, and the CP is not going to go as far. So anyway, long story short, I tend to agree with you. I think it's overall a good thing, but it's not like a huge buff. Like, it's not like crazy buff. My faction is now a S tier, going to be kicking teeth in. Anything else from you, or should we progress?
No, I think we're good to go here, because I think we're going to talk about especially how we'll be alluding back to this moon and how that affects the way different units play, especially Gitmob, because obviously retreat and charge is only as good as things that want to be charging. So
keep this in the back of your mind.
Exactly.
Because this is going to set the scene, and why we spent probably a little bit more time than I wanted to, but it was important for the context, because now everything else flows off the back of this.
Yeah, exactly.
We go to our battle traits, and I'll call things out. Spider Fang, you're gone. So there is no Spider Fang rules. So as you noticed in the past slide, the Spider Fang rules have now basically merged into, I guess, Moon Clan. It's Moon Clan and spiders. It doesn't say that spiders are gone. You haven't got the Slaves to Darkness treatment where you've lost the Manticore Lords. Right. It just means that you don't have a lot of new rules. So that battle formation has disappeared. But in its place, you will see that we do have the new Gitmob pack, but also you will notice the Moon Clan Scrap has now added Spider Fang to that. So the Moon Clan Scrap, Spreading Lunacy, is now pick 3 friendly non-squig Moon Clan or Spider Fang units, and then you get the make the pile in on a 2-up, you inflict some mortals. So Spider Fang, you still looked after, just a little different. And then first and foremost as well, you've got your Moon Clan. There's no changes to Trogs, no changes to Squigs. The Gitmob is in your movement phase. Pick a friendly Gitmob unit that is in combat to use this ability. Then you can pick an enemy unit in combat with that Gitmob unit to be the target. The same enemy unit cannot be picked to be the target of this ability more than once per phase. If you pick a target, roll a d3 on a 2-up, inflict an amount of mortal wounds or mortal damage on the target equal to the roll. Here comes the spicy part. Then the unit using this ability can move a distance up to its move characteristic. It can move through combat ranges of enemy units, but cannot end that move in combat. Core, move, retreat, keywords.
Yeah. It's spicy. It's really spicy. So yeah, I mean, just to hop into it, squigs are still squigs. I mean, did anybody ever take the Spider Fang Stock Tribe Realm Web Ambush? I mean, just saying that out loud makes me think nobody ever took it, because I never heard anybody say those words in that order before. I mean, I think what you get now, just having Spider Fang being a part of the Moon Clan Scrap is just better than the Spider Fang ability, where you could take your big spider with your massive base that never fit anywhere on the table, and like, I want to fit more things in addition to that massive base somewhere on the table. So losing that sub action doesn't really hurt. In fact, Spider Fang just getting wrapped into Moon Clan is as a buff to Spider Fang. Frankly, I think that's just a better sub action. It's kind of like the the Seraphon sub-faction where they have all of the Source Warriors that can do something similar.
Can I
So
just tell you really quickly?
yeah,
Like,
please.
jumping on just on that comment, then I'll give it back to you.
Yeah.
I think it, as a Moon Clan player, which is what one of my two identities here, is I always like the idea of bringing in some like Spider Riders or an Arachnarok of some description. Really take advantage of the Spider Wall. There's a whole bunch of things that I could possibly do, but I've always been conflicted. Like, well, I'm mostly building into Moon Clan and Squigs for some damage or Trogs for some additional, staying power, and the spiders were just kind of there, right? As a Moon Clan player, I'm like, right, how can I make the most now that those rules are coming together? Because yes, I get those crits on 5s. Yes, I'm going to get the OC bonus. And now I'm going to get these pile-in shenanigans from both Moon Clan and Spider Fang. So I think as a Moon Clan player, I've basically gained a bunch of units. And if I'm a Spider player listening to this, I've now got more opportunities, I think. So I think you're right. It's a win for the Spider Fang. Now let's get to the new stuff. Tell me about Gitmob.
Yeah, absolutely. And one last thing for the Spider Fang. I think one of the best things about Spider Riders, and I don't think this changed, Anthony, is that Spider Riders have OC2. So an extra pile-in can make a big difference in taking the objective or not taking the objective. I don't think that got changed. At least.
No, they didn't. They didn't get changed. There was a weird change in the spider section that I think is wrong. We'll get to that.
Okay, perfect. No problem.
But spider riders are units of 5, right?
They're units of 5, with 2 OC apiece. Yeah,
and then plus 5, like that.
Yes.
That's sexy.
Yeah, because they're non-squigs. So I mean, a unit of Spider Riders, we're up to 15 OC now on 5 little Spider Riders. So that was already the thing they kind of did well. It felt really oppressive on Hex Race when they were OC2. Doesn't feel as oppressive on Spiders, and they're going to be potentially 15 control. So I mean, you leave a few Spiders alive, and you're losing that objective, right? So
that's
that extra pile-in, the point being that extra pile-in helps. That extra pile-in matters. Okay, so Gitmob. This is like a power through that you can do in your movement phase as a retreat without taking mortal wounds, right? Like there's just a lot here to say, oh, I feel like at this point, we've all played against Furies, right? Now this isn't Furies, but it has a lot of that same energy. My thing is locked in combat with your thing. I'm just going to leave, fly over all of your stuff and go take this objective or go take their land. And there's very little you can do about it. And you're going to take some damage at the same time. If this was both movement phases, it would be infuriating to play against because you'd have to constantly plan out for this chariot is going to end up way over here somewhere. Luckily, that's not the case. I mean, maybe unluckily because that'd be really fun. I mean, that's probably too cruel boys for Gitz, I think, at this point. But overall, fantastic ability. I think this is great. It's weird that you have this and you have retreat in charge. But since this is core move retreat, Anthony, I believe you could do this and then charge as long as you're in the light of the moon, correct?
That's literally where I was going next. So when you are there in the light of the bad moon of either Sulkin or Cacklin, you could be in combat, move through combat, then shoot, and then charge again. So this is power through and on steroids without a command point.
In the movement phase, right? Because it doesn't happen at the end of the turn. So you can get infinite, like if you want to get into a back hero hiding somewhere and they didn't screen him out properly, your 10-inch, 12-inch move chariot, whatever it is, I have to double check in. It's just going to kind of fly over and then charge back in. And then boom, that key hero is dead. Boom, your faction terrain is dead. Boom, you're taking that land. So this gives so much techie play to goblins. Of course, techie play is one of those things you have to be very careful about with points. And of course, we don't know points. But having these options for high level competitive type play makes a huge difference. And I mean, even not high level type, it's just fun, right? Cool. I'm in combat with you. I'm just going to go flying over here and charging your small hero, or flying over here and charging your hunters of Wanchi, or something I can take out, right? So again, it's super cool. I think it's super flavorful. I think because it has the retreat keyword, and then you get retreat and charge and shoot and all that. It's very Gitmobby based off of what we know of how you can kind of get into the design space of GW, right? You can kind of see, okay, they want Gitmob to be this fast, very fast, techie thing. And so far from what we've seen, I think they're kind of doing that. I think they're doing that pretty well.
They are movement phase cruel boys.
They really are. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
You were talking about Lumineth, for example, right? Those
Hmm.
I had the pleasure of playing 20 Sentinels on Saturday, my first game
Oh,
one. Now
congratulations!
that
It's so much
yeah,
fun.
it was actually.
Well,
But
Lumineth aren't in a bad spot right now as far as playing against them.
no, that was great. My opponent's wonderful. Like that's not like where I was going with this is that when you've got that block of wardens and things like that, or blade lords blocking off those 20
Hmm.
sentinels, absolutely causing a nightmare. How do I get to them? Well, guess what? I've now got one or two chariots who could be taking advantage, powering through, using that speed. If you don't have the bodies, you're not screening appropriately, or if you're smart with your play, this can get into those backfields, that Mortek crawler, those Luminet, those long strikes, whatever it might be. I think people, and this is kind of why I said to you, I'm thinking about how I add Gitmob to my list. I think there's a couple of war scrolls that are already piquing my interest in the play style that I like to play. Complements Squigs really well,
Yeah.
complements Trogs really well, complements MoonClan really well. I think it brings some different things to the party. It's going to come down to points.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're going to be in an interesting place. And points is going to help us decide this. Is just my initial impressions for Gitmob is they're not really going to be run exclusively Gitmob. I think they're going to work much better as a complement. Now there might be a full Gitmob list out there that does really well, and there's some cool stuff we'll talk about as far as the units. So obviously, once you see the war scrolls, you can decide for yourself if can I go all in on wolves, right? But from what I see, there's also the nice thing of, let's say I charge in my trolls and I charge in my one chariot on the edge of those wardens. You're gonna have to put way more effort into killing that if you don't want that thing to tag your. I mean, you're gonna put way more shots and points into it, because the other alternatives, I tag up your sentinels and you have no shooting now, right? So they're gonna have to put an inordinate amount of damage in, and they're overshoot that damage to make sure they take down that chariot, and that means they're not hitting other things, right? So distraction card effects, if you will.
Yeah, and like in this particular season, you got those big blocks of, let's say, Troggoths,
Yeah,
or you're going all in on Squig Herd. Who takes the flank? Who's the sees the center? I don't want to put Squig
exactly,
Herd in the middle of the board. Boom, couple of chariots. I think you're
exactly.
reinforcing the point, folks. I think we both agree that there's some excitement building in Gitmob, but it's also not at the expense of the rest of the faction. You don't have to go Gitmob, but there's definitely some things that is bringing to the party when it comes to the battle formation. The cool thing is, well, not, cool or not cool, depending on where you stand. You've got 3 heroic traits. They still are the same. They haven't changed. I haven't noticed. I think all 3 of them really good. I think the Fight Another Day might have gotten a tiny glow up because of the Gitmob, and maybe that might be a viable option. In the past, Mangler Squig was one of the only few ones that really could take advantage
Right.
of Fight Another Day. I feel like there's 2 hero options on chariots. I think they could take advantage of Fight Another Day. But anything you want to add, Colt, on this particular one? Is there one that your favorites, or anything that might have
I mean,
changed with the stuff that you've seen?
yeah, Gitmob definitely makes Fight Another Day a little bit better, but you can kind of already do that anyway, right? And so, yeah, it's just a matter of when it happens in orders. So maybe if you want to fight another day and then you want to try and countercharge in, but it's still Loon Touch, man. It's hard to give up Arcane Tome, right? I mean, we all know Arcane Tome was the #1 artifact in 3rd edition, and it wasn't even close. After Amulet of Destiny got nerfed way back, every army that could pretty much took Arcane Tome. And sure, we had a Magic season, but it's still gonna be pretty rare that I give up Arcane Tome. Just being able to cast spells, being able to wizard, even adding one. I've seen people take it to add 1 to casting rolls for like things like a Fungoid, right? To get that double cast off at 2 spells with +1. So it's hard to beat Loon Touch, man. I still think it's gonna be Loon Touch for 90+% of my lists.
Yeah, I see value in all 3 of them still. I
Yeah,
think Claim Your Hand, again, you've got these chariots. If you're running a Gitmob chariot, you want to keep them around as long as possible.
sure.
Boom, 3 extra rally dice could help. You've got the wizard chariot now, so getting an extra +1 to that casting roll, incredible. Or making a non-wizard a wizard, again, cool.
So
Um,
nice.
a lot of options, but I think long story short, we're really lucky. Most factions
Yeah,
have like 1 or 2. I think all 3 of them are viable in some form.
I'd agree.
The other thing as well is that artifacts didn't change as well. So Clammy Cow, Black Stabber Blade, Leering Git Shield. I think not all of these are the strongest. I do actually have a preference and a favorite. Where are you standing, Colt?
I mean, Clammy Cow it's hard to give that up, and we're going to talk about it. If nothing else, Clammy Cow actually got more valuable in this book for something we're going to see pretty soon. So it's especially to put it on a big chariot. We have more big kind of fighty heroes to now put it on with the chariots. So A, it got more valuable because it has better targets, and B, we'll see in just a little bit why it's valuable as well. But -1 to hit for attacks to target. I mean, for everything, shooting, combat, it's just powerful. It's a very powerful debuff, especially against other destruction players who are hitting on 4s most of the time. So, I mean, the other ones are cool. Like, I've definitely tried to make Lyrian get shield work to where I'd throw it on a small hero and hope, beyond all hope, they'd charge it something big like 20 blade guys. So I'm like, you just did so many dice that you rolled at me, take like 7 back. But it very rarely plays out that way. So, yeah, and then backstabbers play. I guess that's still there, right?
I don't think let's just
I don't think I've
pretend it's
seen
not.
anybody take backstabbers blade.
Yes, I think I'm going to move over in a second, but I
Yeah.
think, remember, folks, I think Claiming Cow just became an auto-include.
Yeah, I agree with that.
When I click this button, you'll see why. So Claiming Cow, #1 artifact in Gitz. That's because Sneaky Destruction is no longer there. Yeah. This one hurt. So again, I'm a Moonclan player. I love my nets. They did a dirty on my netters. They did an absolute dirty on my netters in 4th edition, and they just doubled down on Sneaky Distraction. So Sneaky Distraction, for the folks who don't remember it, but I'm sure you all do because it was our unlimited spell.
Yep.
You could create a -1 to hit bubble around the wizard wholly within 12, and it was unlimited. So
Yeah.
it had a lot of juice. It was delicious. I'll let Colt respond in a second, but what we got in its place, so Hand of Gork and Spore Maws didn't change. What we did get, and our first point of manipulation of the moon, is called Bad Portents. Casting value of 6, Gloomspite Gitz, yada, yada, yada. Roll a dice on a 1 or a 2, nothing happens. On a 3 to a 5, the face of the bad moon moves to its next face. On a roll of a 6, you get to pick a new face for the bad moon for this battle round. And it's unlimited. This is our new unlimited spell. Colt, where are you at? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I mean, this is obviously the elephant in the book, if you will. This along with the trolls being weaker to shooting is the biggest nerf that you're going to see anywhere in this book. I'm really saying this alone is what takes me from saying this book is great to this book is okay, maybe more of a side grade than an upgrade. Losing your -1 to hit spell is huge. I mean, a lot of times what a lot of players would do is the ideal situation, you toss this on Gobapalooza, and then you measure that 12-inch aura off of every single one of those 5 models, and you get this giant bubble of -1 to hit. Now, that said, it was pretty hard to use. -1 to hit when your opponent has to be wholly within 12. As a player who's played a ton of Gitz, you can definitely sacrifice one model to stay out of that, right? And then every other model is in it. So it was really tricky to use. And it was also it could also be like a little bit of a feels bad. It's like your opponent would charge in, they would then they would pile in, they'd pile into the wholly within range, and then you'd be like, all right, you're -1 to hit. And they'd be like, well, I could have just not piled in, right? So then it like had some of those awkward situations like, yeah, you could have, but you didn't. And then just measuring wholly within enemy units is a silly concept. I would have rather they just rewrote this spell to be a more obvious aura or made a friendly unit's aura. Obviously, that would have been a buff. But just getting rid of it hurts, man. -1 to hit was one of the things that made your units, your army felt so much tankier. So again, this is a huge nerf. And we did bad portents is cool, but it is in no way replacing this, and it's much worse. So the spell lore definitely took a huge hit here. I mean, you have to look at it. Also, bad portents, unlimited spell, easier to cast, but you still have to roll a 6 to kind of do what you really want, right? Like, let's say if I have to cast this just to move it along and I don't get the 6, I have to move it along probably at least twice to move it to where I want to move it. So I have to cast this twice and then get a 3 to 5 twice if I fail to get the 6, right? A 1 and 2, I cast this spell. I mean, it's just crazy to think there's a spell that I cast as a 33% chance of doing nothing. It's like, oh, I got the spell off. You didn't unbind it? Nothing. Like, make it go backwards or something on a 1 to 2. At least that'd be interesting, right? So no, the spell lore, huge thumbs down on this one from me, Anthony. It's a huge nerf overall. I also really wish they would have fixed Hand of Gork, man. It's the same way as the Orc book, but it's like, Ideneth, Lumineth, these guys can just teleport to anywhere on the board. I have to jump through 3 hula hoops for my teleport. Cruel Boys can teleport anywhere with terrain. So this is, I think, the worst teleport spell. The range is pretty limited. It's still good to have. I mean, I definitely have it over no teleport spell. I mean, it wins games, but it's an awkward one for sure.
But you also can't teleport yourself, which annoys the crap out of me.
I know it's
pick a
an
friendly
annoying
unit.
teleport spell to use.
So here's my my high level summary. I agree. Sneaky distraction. I miss it. And I miss it as well because outside of like I didn't really use Spore Maws that often. Scraggot, obviously a great spell. I miss my my great is it the Great Green
Great Green Hand of Gork.
Yeah, basically you grab all the green models around you and then you do a bunch of mortal damage. Like I miss that. Again, we didn't have a lot of shooting. Sneaky distraction will make you think a little differently. It may mean that you need to think about one, how durable your army is, and do I need Droggz now? Because you know that anvil of Moonclan Grots hiding behind, as you said, a Gobapalooza with sneaky distraction is not going to be as durable. So do I need something a bit more tanky like Troggoths who can take that hit maybe? To your point, bad portents, I've been thinking about this a lot, and how do I make the most of this? Because you're right, casting it once doesn't move me very far. It doesn't actually do a lot. I need multiple casts of at least 3 to 5. Does that now mean that I need to take multiple wizards in order to get to this point? And do I want my drops to be 4 to 6 drops because I'm having a bunch of solo wizards just to do this? And if I did have 4 or 5 wizards, wouldn't I be better off casting Forbidden Power or Malign Sorcery or something that is better than just moving the dial? So for me, like, I like that it's there, but it's a niche little thing. And maybe if I'm a 50-50 mix of 2 different parts of the book, and let's say in your example, I'm Troggoths and Gitmob, maybe I cast it once to jump from Trogs to Gitz, or to jump one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the best answer for this spell, Bad Portents, is probably most of the time just ignore it. 33% chance of doing nothing is still just bad. And it makes I mean, on the flip side of that coin, it makes any other ways to control the moon better. So it makes your initial plan that much better to know what 2 turns are my most important turns. Because you have to, I think as like a competitive player, you have to look at what you can guarantee. So I can guarantee turns 2 and 3, these units are going to be in the moon. That's what I want to guarantee. And it also, like, it's going to make things that can control the moon better. And there's still 2 of those, right? We've got Scragrot and we've got the Endless spell. So I think both of those are now better than they used to be because this is bad. Bad portents, it's in the name, right? It's bad portents, right? It's bad. So again, I think other things are better and more valuable than they used to be.
My last comment is if they're going to double down on this spell, I think make it casting value 3. Like, if you're going to make me roll a whole bunch of things, but yes, it's a nice to have, but it's low priority on my list. I will not be casting it very often unless there's a very niche chance. And it's probably a good chance I'm going to forget about it overall. I'm probably going to forget about it in a moment because, again, a bunch of manifestations are free and I can cast that instead of, and I'm not taking a whole bunch of wizards anyway.
Exactly. I mean, typically a Gitz list has around 3 casts on a lot of casts. Anywhere, I'd say 2 casts is maybe the standard, but somewhere 1 to 3 is usually where Gitz list falls. So
it's been a long time since I ran my 6 wizard Moon Clan. It's you know, I mean, anyway.
Spiderfang aren't 65 points anymore, man. You just can't do that with the little shamans.
And I don't have my madcap shamans anymore. I don't
have they're
anyway,
gone too, all your cheap wizards.
Yeah, don't you triggered me, Colt. You triggered me.
I'm sorry, I had to do it.
Triggered. Okay, so now I'm going to go through all the Battletome changes that we've noticed. Then we're going to go into the new War Scroll. So I've done my best to identify. I've literally looked at every single thing. Please be kind if I've missed something or if I've maybe whatever. Anyway, let's go line from line. First things first, we're looking at Scragrot, our magical little friend. There has been a change to the Loon King's entreaty. No surprise, like the wording has changed. That is the word now. So basically, you can the face of the bad moon stays in its current position instead of moving to its next sequence. Similar to how he used to manipulate, but it's a little different. Scragrot, I think, maybe has become more important in a Gitz list than ever before. And then the other thing that I really like is the Babbling Wand. So if you use it, if you're using the command of Babbling Wand, which is based around redeploy, you just don't spend no command. Now, in the past, it just guaranteed you a 4 redeploy. Now it's no CP. It's probably like a 50-50. Some people will love the fact that it was a guaranteed 4. Some people will love the fact that they basically get an extra resource if they use redeploy. Anything you'd say here on Scraggy?
I mean, I think like we mentioned before, we already see Scragrot being played. There's a few reasons for that. One of my favorite reasons is that he's what I like to call a troll tax. So there are currently 4 heroes in the book that can take trolls. And this is going to sound crazy. Scragrot is the cheapest of those 4 heroes in the current book at 230 points. So A, he fills the role of troll tax, and B, he does a lot of other stuff. So A, I think he got better because controlling the moon is more important - harder, however you want to put it. And now I can guarantee 3 turns of full board wide, exactly the moon I want. That's honestly pretty important on its own. The redeploy thing, it's like it's a coin flip, right? It really is. 4-inch redeploy typically is all you need, and being able to guarantee that's great. But sometimes you don't have a CP. Or a CP you can afford to spend on that, especially because your resurrection is tied to CP. So Gitz players always are kind of having to save 1 CP in their back pocket to resurrect. So a lot of times, even though you could guarantee a 4-inch redeploy, you couldn't waste that CP to do that. So especially now that all out defense and shooting is going to be more common for trolls, I like this better, knowing that trolls are going to have to all out defense shooting attacks more often. Personally,
You literally said what I was going to say. Literally what I was going to say in the
no,
world
I'm sorry.
of Trogs. No. But in the world of Trogs, where you needed that +1 save
Yeah.
because your loon skin has changed, you now need an all-out defense. So that 1 CP, and am I going to redeploy? Or I mean, obviously, you could redeploy out of range and problem solve, but this does give you options. Again, some people are going to love it, some people aren't going to love it. I'm not going to dwell on too much, but we got lots of changes to talk about. But let's.
Well, I mean, now you can just do it all the time, right? Like who cares? I'm just gonna, I can do it every single turn, and sometimes that's just gonna win you games. I wouldn't have redeployed here because I wanted the command point. Got a 6, I won the game. So just being able to do things is great.
Why not? Why not? Even if you get a 1.
Yeah, exactly.
Sneaky Snufflers, Moon, Cap, Mushrooms. Now that's changed a little bit again because it has interaction with the Bad Moon. Roll a dice. On a roll of a 1, if the face of the Bad Moon is cackling, this turn on a 3+, the ward, yada, 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 yada. The rules didn't really change. It's just now the interaction between being under the light of the Bad Moon versus being under a cackling light. So it's very specific. You remember in the past, some of them will have 2 parts of the moon. This one is now only 1 part of the moon. Colts?
Yeah, it's just a little better because your army as a whole got Snufflers are a little bit better because your army as a whole got less tanky. So being able to give a Squig Herd a 5-up ward, pretty good. Before you'd have -1 to hit to kind of protect them. Now now there's more because Snufflers weren't really being played. Very, very little. So this just means I have something else that can make me a little more tanky. But yeah, the other change is just clerical for the way the moon worked.
I'm going to say that it's a partial downgrade.
Okay.
And I'm ruining Christmas a little bit because the last point.
Please.
No. Because the last point I'm going to share with you all is that the Loon Shrine no longer provides Light of the Bad Moon.
Right.
So if you were thinking about the defensive buff in the top of turn 1, you've got your Snufflers, within range of the Bad Moon. You could then easily get that 3-up ward, yada yada yada. Now you're ring reliant on the Cacklin. So how that works, what that possibly means, I'll leave it up to you. I think it's a downgrade, personally. Or it just means that I've got to think a little bit harder of how I make the most of Sneaky Snufflers. And to your point, they were a unit that was already struggling to hit the table because you've got Gobbapalooza who fights in that same spot. I'm usually taking Gobbapalooza versus Sneakies. But Sneaky Snufflers do be a nice little anvil. But again, Gobbapalooza is a 4-up ward immediately on the first turn, no dice roll.
That's true. It's hard to compete with Gabba, man. Gabba's just very, very good. But yeah,
there's that extra wizard we're talking about too.
Yep. Absolutely.
Next one is the Loon Boss on Giant Cave Squig. So let's get bouncing. So pick a friendly non-hero Moon Clan Cavalry unit that has not used fight, blah, 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 can fight immediately. So that 1-2 punch. So it used to give you a +1 to hit rolls. And the keywords have slightly changed. I think it's now just made it a little bit tighter. So losing the +1 to hit kind of sucks. Personally, I think this is a bit of a downgrade, but
Yeah, agreed. I mean, the only time I ever saw anybody take this was Tad took one to Worlds, and I don't think he liked it very much, and it was better. So I don't know why this needed to happen. I mean, it's so specific in that it boosts just bounders and hoppers. And hoppers, this isn't really. I mean, yeah, it helps them, but it's more so for bounders. It's a little silly. It's a little silly that they would nerf this unit really in any other way, right? Like it's not good enough to deserve a nerf, in my opinion, in the first place.
Yeah, it used to just be non-hero Squig Cavalry.
Yes.
Now it's non-hero Moon Clan Cavalry. So that'll benefit your Squigs. That was not your Squigs, your spiders, right?
Right, because are they both Spider Fang and Moonfang? Or I thought they were just Spider Fang.
Let me have a look. Let me have a look. If they're Moon, yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right.
Yeah, I
Even
don't
then,
believe. Yeah,
I'm
because that
trying to
makes a
I'm trying to
difference.
wedge this.
You're trying to make it better, right? Because I mean, yeah,
I'm trying now.
giving Spider Fang fight first would be cool, but I don't think Spider Fang have the Moon Clan keyword, do they?
I'm trying. No, I don't think so. I'm quickly looking in the book. I'm
Okay.
really trying. I think it's
Yeah, yeah,
terrible.
yeah. No problem.
Um,
It's pretty bad, man. Nerfing a bad thing feels bad. I mean,
yeah,
that's the only way you can really look at that.
and when I run bounders and hoppers, I'm normally running a Mangler Squig anyway. So
I'm not running this guy, right? Like, and the
no.
Mangler Squid got better in the last battle scroll. So I have even less reason to run this guy. They got better and cheaper.
Bingo. Speaking of bounders, each time a friendly model in this unit, sorry, roll a dice for each model in the unit. On a 4-up, inflict 1 mortal damage on the target. It used to be triggered on a D3 for D3 mortals. Now it's actually back to what it used to be in second edition,
Yep.
where the very first book, where you roll a flat 4-up per model. So it really rewards you for having that reinforced unit of Boingrots, rather than just MSU, bunch of 5s running around trying to trigger D3. And you don't have to roll the 2-up. So I think this is a good change for bounders.
I agree completely. I mean, on average, this takes you to 5 mortal wounds on a unit of 10, which is better than 1.5 on average. I think that a 2-up D3 gives you something like that. Also, this is kind of strange because this reopens that design space that fourth closed, right? I mean, give me a second here. It's I'm sure everybody remembers these things, right? D3 mortal wounds per model, right? These would charge in. These are the Corn Mortal Rhinos. So that design space was gone, right? They kind of made it a whole unit can do D3, and now that this is coming back, it means maybe we'll see ogres get their thing back, right? Maybe they're more open now to saying, okay, things can do more mortal wounds on the charge, because it was very much everything in the game. Charge in, I don't care what it is, you're doing D3 mortal wounds. So I like that they're re-exploring this design space to make charging feel more rewarding for these units. But it's a dangerous design space, right? Like these were stupidly broken for a while, and they still have a 2-up save and nobody likes them. But again, some scary stuff. Obviously, it's not a Git unit, so I apologize, but you get the idea.
Yeah, like them and Morsar Guard in Iden of Deepkin were
Yes,
famous for
exactly.
that once per game, like
Charge
little.
explosion.
Yeah, yeah. I think for me, like I love my bounders, and
Yes,
I
agreed.
reinforce you. And now that their armor save went from 4 to 5 in fourth edition, I'm like,
Yep.
why would I reinforce these guys when I could just get 10 hoppers instead? The
Yeah.
answer is very clear. Now I've got a really good answer and a role of why I take bounders over hoppers. So for me, this is a win.
Yeah, and I agree. I like bounders over hoppers based on this change. And I always kind of liked them a little more. I know there are a few players out there like Greg who really likes his hoppers, but I always thought the bounders were slightly better than hoppers.
This does more damage. I'm all a
They
fan
do.
of bounders doing more hot damage. Let's talk about your trogs. Your Dankhold Trog boss. Now this is a sick rule. I saw this, and this might be one of my favorite rule changes. So the Dankhold Trog boss, the Shepherd of Destruction, roll a dice on a 4-up for the rest of the turn. Add 1 to the attacks characteristic of melee weapons used by trogs. Now, it does have some little shenanigans here where it had some, you can see my little writing there, was requiring the Dankhold to be in combat. It needed to have some buff, blah, 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 blah. It was triggering on a 3, a whole bunch of changes. I think overall, I like this better.
I like this better too, and that's just because the Dankhold Trog boss has D6 damage a lot. He's famous for going in and not doing much damage, and you also kind of had to expose him to danger. but it was also really annoying to kind of make this work. Because like if you're charging a unit with a small base, he has to be in there. A unit of trolls has to be within 3 of him. Another unit of trolls has to be within 3 of him if they want to get their buffs. Then you have to roll the 3 up. Remind me what phase this happens in this roll.
Was that a hero
Because
phase?
I think it's the hero phase.
You keep talking, I'll bring it up.
Yeah, I believe it's the
Boss?
hero phase, which is nice because
No, combat. It's combat.
okay,
It's
so
combat.
still combat.
Once per turn, any combat phase.
Okay. So the aura is a lot easier. You don't have to basically expose him to danger, even though he is going to be -1 to hit still, right? Because you can still do that heroic trait on him, which you should be. Or sorry, artifact in this case. I like it better. It makes it a lot easier to make sure your trolls are getting inside the buff. It's a much bigger aura. And again, he doesn't have to expose himself to danger. And does it last for just that combat phase as well? I believe it does since it's a combat phase.
Yeah, it says once per turn, any combat phase, army, roll the dice, blah, 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 blah.
Perfect.
Blah. Yeah.
So you can use it in your opponent's
It's a
turn
rampage,
too, which is kind of cool, even if he's no longer in combat. So before, like if you killed something, your opponent got out of combat with him and then got into your trolls, but not him, you couldn't get the +1 attacks anymore. So again, this feels like a good change. I actually really like this change. It makes him feel better. It makes him feel more like a buff piece. It makes him feel more like, I don't know, a shepherd of destruction instead of a frontline fighter of destruction. So I think it works well with him. I still hope this guy maybe gets a little bit of a point decrease, but I think this overall is a buff that I like. It makes the game feel better and feel more cohesive on how pretty much all other buff characters work.
Yes. By the way, that was not my favorite rule. I lied. It's actually 2 rules coming up.
Okay.
It's actually the Dankhold Troggoth that I'm obsessed
Yeah.
with. The Dankhold Trogboss. So I still like this rule. It's not my favorite rule though. Anyway, Trog, our wonderful Troggoth King, has gained the War Master keyword. I had to like do a double take here because I'm like, isn't he already a War Master? Nope, he wasn't. Now he is.
Yeah. Cool. Straight nerf. We can move past that one.
Is it enough?
I mean, there's no benefit to being a War Master. Yeah. It's not like the old edition where like generals got like bonuses or buffs or things they could do. Now it could be future proofing where generals are more important and then War Master's more important, having 2 generals. Because there were like a couple times in the old edition where having more generals was cool. But so far in 4th, it's just a straight nerf because it just forces you to do more things.
Yeah, if you take Trog, it means you can't make the General's Regiment as the Trog boss and things like that. But
it's minor. It's so minor. Like for most cases, because a lot of times you want your whatever again your troll tax hero is in this case would be Trug to have 4 slots anyway to be able to take more trolls.
Yeah. I haven't seen a lot of, and like when I do see Trug, it's normally Trug and Scraggy, and then everything within the 2.
Yeah, exactly. And then you can pick either one because they're both War Masters anyway.
Bingo.
So now 3 of your 4 troll tax heroes are War Masters.
Here's my favorite, by the way, the Dankhold Troggoth Wade and Smash. So this unit, this is a combat phase ability, any combat phase. This unit can make a 6-inch move, but it must end that move in combat. Then roll a d3 for each enemy unit within 1. On a 2-up, inflict the amount of mortal damage, blah, 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 blah. Rampage. So I really like this.
Yeah, I mean, I like that it's kind of an explosion that hits everybody. I mean, a 6-inch move is sweet because ideally you can kind of just, I believe Wade and Smash kind of allows you to ignore models as well. Like you can fly over them, correct? You might have to remind me on that one.
It doesn't say like the exact wording, or you mean the current version or the
yeah. Well, I mean, either I think I can't remember if this one. I mean, we don't see a lot of Dankhold Troggoths in combat right now in the list because it's like they're 10 points less than Rock Guts, and Rock Guts are amazing. So why would I take a Dankhold? But honestly, it's a very good rule. I mean, free movement in combat, right? And then an explosion that does damage to everybody. It's great. I mean, and like you said, it's a 6-inch move into combat that doesn't require me to be starting combat. It's just Murderlust, right? Like that's insane. That's insanely valuable.
It's hilarious because actually on my notes, I literally said like this is Murderlust because if you look at the current Wade and Smash, the first thing says is if this unit is in combat, it can move 6. So the movement's still happening, but this allows you to move into combat. So does that mean then I could possibly get within 6, and then trigger that move of Wade and Smash into combat, even though I didn't charge because I can't charge if I run and charge?
I mean, if Corn can do it, that you should be able to do it too, right? Same thing with a redeploy. right? Redeploy, then await and smash. Unless it's only, is it only on your turn though, or no?
No, any combat phase. Any.
Gosh, that's so strong.
Any. Does that mean
Yeah,
I save a redeploy? Like if I'm within
Yep.
6, I don't have to use a redeploy.
You don't have to use a redeploy, but if they're within 9 inches, right? And you get that like 4-inch redeploy, you're pulling something into combat that did not want to be in combat. And maybe, I mean, the crazy thing is like the obvious answer is my opponent goes for take the flanks. That puts them at 9 inches away from me if I'm on the line. So I redeploy 4 inches and move 6 inches into combat and kill whatever your tiny unit is on the flanks. It makes take the flanks very dangerous against 2 dank hold Droggz sitting on the side of the board, who are now also in the light of the bad moon all the time because it's always board wide. So again, you know, it seems crazy good because Murderless is crazy good. And it definitely is like, oh, I want to take these now because just how techy and powerful. Like if you've ever played against Khorne, you know exactly why you want to take this. It's disgusting.
I was thinking the other way, like Caesar Center, right? If you take
Sure,
first,
yeah.
yes, move of 6, run 6, fend a CP, you're now 12. That opponent wants to go Caesar Center. You can then again make that extra 6-inch move. Again, there's some spicy tech coming out of here. Long story short,
it's all spicy.
And this is why we're at the hour mark and we still haven't even got to the new units. It's coming soon, but I think you're seeing and hearing how we are thinking about the faction and the rules and our genuine excitement. And yes, there has been some hot garbage coming out, but sneaky distraction, I'm looking at you. One thing that I do think is an absolute error, so please do not go out and go buy a bunch of them right now. And if you do, make sure to sell them back to me when you realize they're going to be wrong, is the Web Spinner Shaman control score has moved to 5. Now, it was 2. I do not believe for a second that a Web Spinner Shaman is meant to have a control score of 5. If this is wrong and in a month's time this hasn't been errated, you message me and tell me how I was very wrong, but I don't think he's control score 5.
It's probably wrong. They probably had the Web Center Shaman on a Ragnarok, which is 5, and copied over that War Scroll and left the 5. If it's not wrong, Spider-Man is back, baby. Like he's going to be flinging across terrain pieces, ended up on. It's silly.
You know, when I said that I haven't run all those 6 heroes for a long time, you
It's
watch
time.
all my auxiliary like 1 regiment type Web Spinner Shaman, Web Spinner Shaman, Web Spinner Shaman.
Start painting them like Spider-Man, man. It'll be perfect. Love it. Exactly.
We're in the hat. Speaking of spiders, your Skitterstrand Arachnarok health has gone down a point, so it's gone from 14 to 13. I don't know why, but cool.
Sweet.
It's clearly a minor nerf.
Hopefully it drops points. Maybe they're just trying to make spiders really cheap. So like, how do we make them really cheap? Let's drop their stats a little bit. Hopefully, I mean, that's the best wishful thinking I can give you on that one. Otherwise, it's just a straight nerf.
I don't know why. I really don't know why. The Arachnarok with Web Party and the Arachnarok with Flinger, the Crooked Spear profiles have flipped. So it used to be hitting on 4s, wounding on 5s. Now you're hitting on 5s, wounding on 4s. So I guess you
take these things for the leg damage. If you're taking them at all, you're not taking them for this. So it's kind of a moot point, but interesting. It's a choice. I don't,
Yeah.
Makes no notable difference here.
Yeah. Let's move along. Something that I'm really I don't understand when I show you the War Scrolls, you'll understand really why I don't understand is the Snarlfang Riders. The doggo bites are hitting now on 3s. They used to hit on 4s, but then most of the new doggos are hitting on 4s. So don't understand this one. Maybe it's also an error, but right now it's hitting on 3. So if you are thinking about doing that Gitmob and you're looking at the current range, our Snarlfang Riders, that's clearly a boost.
It's really weird. It's a big boost. I mean, those because I mean, when it comes to Gitz Wolf Riders, the wolves do the damage, not the Gitz themselves. So they're destruction, so they should be hitting on 4s anyway, and they're mounts, so they should be hitting on 4s anyway. So, I mean, if it's intentional and it stays, like they are probably your best damage cavalry option for wolves, and it's huge. It's honestly a really big deal. Like hitting on 3s versus 4s is a huge deal for this model, for the squad, if you will. I don't get it either. Again, I don't get it because, like you said, the other wolves are not hitting on 3s, so it's really, really cool if it stays, and it makes them really, really good. So
do you know what makes this even worse?
What's that?
Gore Grunters hit on 5s now. They went from 4s to 5s. Gore Grunter players are probably blowing up right now. Anyway.
Oh yeah, yeah, I don't know, man. Wolves are cool, I guess. It's really sweet. Like Snarlfang Riders getting a buff and now having the I mean, they have the Gitmob keyword, being a part of an actual army that gets rules. And just again, it doesn't make sense. It really does not make sense why they did this, but I love it. I love it.
Snarlfang Riders do have a cool rule that they can't catch us, which allows you to move in the enemy movement phase. I do think that I've had a box that has gathered dust forever. I think now is the time that I build them. Like right now that there's faction rules, there's some good stuff in here for me. So definitely reconsidering the Snarlfang Riders. Malevolent Moon is a really good buff, and I think Gitz players, you are likely going to drop you're going to stop taking your universal manifestations. I think this Malevolent Moon, now that Gloomspite Gitz units wholly within 12 inches of this manifestation are affected by all 4 sides of the bad moon. So your Skrinnen, your Scowlin, your Sulkin, your Cacklin. So if you're looking for that consistency, you don't want to take Scragrod, or you want to go Scragrod and Malevolent Moon and really double up and get some turn 1 shenanigans with the moon while you're preparing for that turn 2 and beyond. I see Gitz players really going into their manifestation lore. It's a shame that the mushroom hasn't gotten any better. Spiders does spider things. Cauldron does cauldron things. But I think the moon has gotten a massive glow up from this rule.
Yeah, huge. Again, we talked about there being now, I mean, an endless spell kind of, or your unlimited spell kind of sucks. So, this fixes your Snuffler problem, for example. This does a lot of things for this, right? For this army. And there's a couple units that we'll see too in the new units where I think this is pretty important for. And it actually makes me consider taking the Gitz endless spells, right? Because they were always kind of a consideration, but this is your only moon aura in the whole army now. Your shrine doesn't do it. Scragrot doesn't do it. I mean, he didn't do it since 3rd, but it's got value. It really has a lot of value.
And I just added, yes, the Bad Moon Loon Shrine. We've talked about it a few times now.
Yeah.
The effigy of the Bad Moon, that rule is just removed, not even updated. It's just removed. So your Bad Moon, so your shrine doesn't give you, that's the only change. There's no other changes to the shrine. It's just that you don't get that aura now. So I think even what we've both agreed is that the moon has become more important than ever before, or you're building a list that isn't reliant on the moon, but I think you're losing a lot of value and a lot of the hitting power from the faction if you're not tapping into the moon abilities.
Yeah, and it means I can just throw my moon in a corner now. So it's on the plus side, it's going to be harder for people to get to it and destroy it. But also on the plus side, I don't have to explain how measuring from terrain works to players anymore. So that's nice.
This might be your very first, even like if you go, if your opponent takes first, right? This might be your very first magical intervention just to get the moon out, have it protected, then do some stuff. So,
yeah.
Anything else you want to kind of mention, or should we get into the fun new things?
Oh, let's jump into it, man.
All right, so we've got new units to talk about. Again, we don't have points. We might not go too deep because I think the context isn't there. I guess I'll get Colt's initial thoughts and feelings about it. Then we have 2 Armies of Renown to talk about. Oh, by the way, for anyone who's worried, there's also a new what's it called? Spearhead. So you've got if you want to run all the Gitmob Spearhead, there's absolutely a Spearhead as well, and there's all Path to Glory stuff too. We haven't acknowledged that. We're not going to go through it today, but there's Spearhead as well for those who want to run a Gitmob focused Spearhead. All right, we've got a lot of war scrolls, so let's power through this. First off, we have our unique hero, Droggz Da Sunchompa. See, he's got a decent profile. It's moves 12, save 4, control 2, health 7, 2 attack profiles. You've got the hero. He's hit 5 attacks, 3s, 4s, rend 1 for 2 with crit mortals. And then you've got the doggo with 4 attacks, 3s, 3s, 1, 2. You've got 3 rules. You've got the Frazzle Fangs, which while an enemy unit is within 6 inches of this unit, you subtract 1 from hit rolls for enemy units' attacks, and that enemy cannot use all-out attack command. You've also got the Time Scrapper, where once per battle, it's a reaction to an opponent declaring a fight ability. Roll a dice on a 4-up. You can pick a friendly unit wholly within 9 inches of this unit to be the target for that fight ability. That unit can then move 2d6. It can move through the ranges of any enemy units, but cannot end that in combat. Finally, you have Rip Dem to Bits, where once per turn, when you declare a fight ability, basically it's the 1-2 punch. So it fights and then something can fight immediately, specifically Gitmob. Over to you, Colt.
This thing is scary. So it really reinforces the idea that kind of Gitmob is your techie bit. And a lot of times I see a Gitmob unit, I'm like, I want this at the very edge of a combat. And that's kind of the same thing here. I want this to be in combat with you. So you get -1 to hit. You don't get to all attack. So, I mean, if you're, again, if you're using this against a destruction player, they're hitting on 5s and there's no way they're making that better. Right. So that's a huge debuff. Now, time to scrapper, whatever it's supposed to be. I mean, Gitz, right? Who knows? Incredibly powerful if you roll the 4-up, right? So let's say you have this thing just within 3 inches of a front line of a squig herd or something, whatever you want to do it, and you get charged, right? You probably have to have them off to the side because they probably can't get all the way around him. You roll a 4-up, and as written, they dip out of there. You get more than, a 3 inches, or I guess 6 inches, because it's when they declare the fight ability so they can still pile in. You get outside of 6 inches, their attacks are gone. As far as I understand, their attacks, this is like when you used to be able to do the thing with the Lord of Hubris and the spell for Slaanesh, where they could just run out of combat and all of your attacks are already declared onto that unit. That's huge. That's such a powerful ability. Yes, on a 4-up is going to be the most frustrating thing in the world, especially on a once per game ability, especially if this guy's expensive. I'm bringing this guy to be a get out of jail free card that works half the time. But even that, as long as his points aren't egregious, I really want to take this guy because, again, I can pick up my squig herd unit, plop it back 7 inches, and then it's my turn, assuming I don't get doubled. And it just charges you, and now I get to fight you instead. I really can't undersell how powerful this guy is. I mean, points pending, but this dude is crazy strong. You kind of, and like, if you're in a situation now, like, let's say you're in a situation like, oh, well, I just kill the hero instead. Cool. My squigs are going to eat you. Like, he puts you in a very huge predicament to where if you even want to charge into those, knowing that on a 4-up, you just get nothing except countercharged. I don't know, man. It seems crazy. And then he has more words. Like, he has more words in addition. There's a whole third box here, Anthony. I didn't even talk about that box. Do I even have to talk about it? Like, it's crazy. It doesn't really make a huge difference just to fight immediately after. But like, he doesn't need that. He's got so many other rules in those first 2 boxes that I don't even care about that, to be frank. And it's still a good rule. Fight immediately after is fine because you want this guy in combat. A lot of the problems with fight immediately after heroes is you don't really want them in combat. You want this dude in combat. He's got crit mortals, but his passive is really why you want him in combat. So I don't know, dude. This dude seems absolutely busted in a lot of ways. So
see, I think he's good, but I don't think it's busted. I see this like Manfred von Carstein. Now,
sure.
Don't throw tomatoes at me at this point. The reason I say this, and there's a couple of key callouts. 1, 4-up armor save. 2, 7 health. 3, no ward. So I think, to get the most out of this model, you've got to be within 6 to get the -1 to hit and the all-out attack. Incredible rule, but it's at risk. You then got your 4-up the time scrapper, right? So 50% of the time that's going to fail, and there's a very good chance that this thing dies. So you need, like Manfred, not to go one-on-one with the big monsters, but to pick the right opponent. So I think you've got to think about who supports this the best, and then really limit the amount of damage and attacks going into it, because I think this, if I'm an opponent, you talk about the lumineth shooting, we talk about, any range attacks, I'm going for this thing. So just be very smart with the unit. It's a good unit. It's probably A tier type of unit.
Yeah.
But you'll lose it very quickly if you play a bit loose.
Anthony, just put this bad boy right next to Kragnos and call it a day, man. Kragnos retreats out of combat and countercharges you in. I'm just saying, like, he doesn't even have to be in combat for any of these rules. Like, I kept saying, like, put him in combat, but like, first rule doesn't have to be in combat. Second rule, doesn't have to be in combat. He can just be behind Kragnos. As long as Kragnos is wholly within 9 of him, then Kragnos runs away. I see a lot of power on this dude, man. I think you might be underselling him. I think he's really good.
I'm not underselling. I think he's great. I think you've got to play smart with it. And
Agreed.
the lore of this model is that this hero has died like a million times. Like for anyone who's into comic books and the Phantom isn't invincible. It's just that another idiot takes on the Phantom suit, and it just seems like the characters. This dog has been around since the dawn of time. It's just that the idiot on top keeps dying. So it's not invincible. He's not invincible.
No, of course not. I like that you went Phantom there instead of Dread Roberts from Princess Bride, but same basic idea.
Could have gone either way, 50-50, the 40%, the 4 up. One quick thing I just want to call out, and then I'll get your thoughts on. So I was doing some research and having a look at some heroes that might be similar. Like obviously there's nothing the same, but like what could the points be, right? So I look at cavalry heroes that have some decent power, right? You've got your Lord Castellan on Dracoth, that's 190 points. You've got your Scarvet on Agradon, 190 points. Your Chaos Lord on Kakadrak 230. You've got your Chaos Lord on Juggernaut, 220. A couple of heroes similar.
Yep.
If this model is around that 180 to 250 mark, like what's the type of, like at what point is it too expensive for you based on what we know?
I want him to be at about 200 tops, I want to say. He's kind of like an Eternus like piece to me, right? As far as something that does really weird things for a cavalry hero. But it's just, you don't have a lot of -1 to hit. So like this dude could just be valuable being behind your front line and just being your -1 to hit bubble. Like I'd probably pay up to 250 points for that. And then knowing I could run away from combat with something like Kragnos, a Squig Herd, which Squig Herd's a little tougher because it's so many models, a big block of trolls. It's just, I'd probably pay up to 250 for this guy.
Yeah, I can't pay 300, I don't think. Now, obviously, we haven't seen the pitch battle profile, so we don't know how flexible or non-flexible and blah, blah, blah. 240, 250 feels right. I don't think it's on the lower end of 190. I could see it being anywhere like 210 to 250. 260, I'm really asking questions, but...
Right, agreed. But yeah, it's in a vacuum, those are some very strong abilities, especially in an army that lost -1 to hit. Bringing that back. And again, I just love the idea of using with Kragnos, man. This is my one thing that can kill Kragnos. On a 4-up, you don't get to kill him, and he's going to kill you instead.
I love your obsession. It's so good.
Man. It's cool.
It's so funny.
Just don't roll a 1 to 3.
Just don't roll 1 to 3. Don't roll 1 to 3. One of my favorite units, not the favorite unit, spoiler, it's Doom Divers, but your wizard chariot. So this is Frag Legate, Shaman on War-Wheela. So movement 12. A lot of these units are movement 12, especially your chariots. So movement 12, 9 health, 4 up save, control score 2. Profile is okay. Like, I'm not even going to read it out. Like, it's okay. Yeah. You're taking this wizard on chariot, not for its weapon profile, but 2 important rules. The first one being give me all delight, where friendly Gitmob units that are not the wizard, so Frag Legate, Shaman on War-Wheela, cannot be targeted by shooting attacks while they're wholly within 6 inches of this unit. So this might be a nice little way to get our little hero we just spoke about a little bit more durable up the board. The other rule being that the Fraggle Mist is pick up to 3 visible enemy units within 9 inches of this to be the target. Roll a d3 on a 2-up, inflict amount of mortal damage to the target equal to the roll. It is a 1-cast wizard. It is obviously a war machine, and it's a hero. It's not unique, so you can run multiple Frag Legates, wizard or legit. I'm sure someone or Fraggle Git. It's Fraggle Git. What am I doing? I'm breaking up the word as like I'm breaking up the word differently.
You just keep adding syllables in there, man. The longer it gets, the more goblins it sounds. So I'm all here for it.
Oh, it's a Fraggle Git. Anyway, just take this over, please. Grab the mic. Go.
Yeah. So he's got to be. I mean, so he's a hero. He's a wizard, so he's going to be 100 points base, and then we have to add everything else to it. So, I mean, if he's around 150 points, I like him. His ability is pretty cool for protecting small heroes, but this game already has a rule that kind of does that called Lookout Sir. So he's kind of competing with that for your heroes, but for protecting other stuff like, I don't know, catapults that launch in Doom Divers. They don't get Lookout Sir. So again, if he's the right amount of points, which I want to say around the 150, 100, maybe 180 point, because again, he's still a wizard. He's still a really fast wizard. So maybe 180 is where I expect he's going to plop down. And he just plinks out mortal wounds in your turn to 3 things. I mean, if you guys have ever played against what is it, the Maw Pit, you know that adds up. Of course, it's just on your turn, not the opponent's turn, like because the Maw Pit's just crazy. But he's good. I mean, he's got good abilities. Both those are good abilities, and he's a wizard. Just he's fast too. If you need it, and fast matters, guys. If I need this to go get a flank or something in a pinch, if I need to go grab an objective in a pinch, I can auto run 6, go 18 inches. Fast always matters. So again, the points have to be right, but his abilities are fine. His speed is great.
I wonder if this model was the reason why Sneaky Distraction doesn't exist anymore. Imagine this fast 12-inch bubble of -1 to hit.
That's true.
This would be hot.
He'd be the king of do not hit me with Sneaky Distraction. So
Frazzlegit. This is like biggie in the mirror, and it appears into my house. So I was breaking up the word differently. Anyway, long story short, decent model. I was looking at some similar things like the Slaanesh Bladebringer. It's 160 points. You could probably look at the Zangor Shaman on disc. Again, similar. You're probably sitting around the 170 to 200 mark.
Yeah, that's fair.
Roughly. We'll see how this ends kind of coming up soon.
Sure.
Next up is our hero non-wizard version. So the Snarlboss On War-Wheela. So the combat profile is a little bit juicier. Again, it is meant to be a combat hero. So you've got your Chain Basher, which is 5 attacks, force 3s, 1-2 crit auto wounds. A couple of things like the Wheel Slicer, and then obviously your Doggo. So it's a good amount of attacks. It's not high volume, not high damage. Well, you got high volume, you got 6s and 5s, but it's Rend 1, Rend nothing, a lot of chip.
Wolves that hit on 4s.
Yeah, unlike our Snarl Beast Riders. But you're not taking him for the Snarl Fangs frothing jaws. You're taking him for probably 3 rules here. First off, a delicious one, keeping up with the boss. So that's that 1-2 punch again, specifically for the Sunsteala Wheelas, which is the chariots that I showed you earlier. The ones that come into the box. These are just the non-hero, non-wizard. They're just the standard chariots. You got 2 other rules. You got the glare of Frazzlegit, not the other words that I'm making up. So for the rest of the turn, any hero phase, subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by enemy units while they're in combat with a friendly Sunsteala Wheelas, and then add 6 to the movement characteristic of this unit and friendly Sunsteala Wheelas. It's a once per game ability though. The other thing you've got here is the Frazzlegit's Flame Stream. It's a movement phase ability in your movement phase, and this is why you take him. This unit can move a distance up to its movement characteristic. Oh, okay, so what? I can move and a move. Well, it's the next part. It can pass through other models and the combat ranges of enemy units, but it cannot move, end its move in combat. Then pick 1 friendly enemy infantry unit that it's passed through, and then inflict D6 mortal damage. Note, this unit can use this ability even if it's in combat.
Yeah, I do one quick correction. I don't think you can move and then move because it has the keyword move.
No.
So you can't double move with it. But you can still go 18 inches out of combat, which is pretty cool if you use your Glare of Frazzle. I mean, weirdly, Goblin Chariots have their own wall, I guess. They can once per game get -1 to hit me and move 6. So, I mean, pretty sweet. So again, it's that same kind of tech, right? And now you do flyover mortals at the same time. So it's interesting, and it's pretty cool overall. I think they're a pretty cool thing. I do have this weird pet peeve when an army has a bunch of really cool retreat and charge moves, and nobody gets any charge buffs. So we're going to see that on this wolf, the other chariots, the other wolves, none of them have like charge +1 damage, which is just a kind of a bummer when your whole, I mean, their point is like weirdly not to do damage, but like they kind of still want to do some damage, right? So it's like you're in this weird spot where you have these techie chariots and they're like, well, we can do all these techie things, but we kind of, we don't really care about damage. So they're not going to be your primary damage dealer. So I don't know how many you can feasibly take. And, you know, so that's kind of this guy's big thing is I don't foresee a list where I can take only chariots. So it's like, am I going to take a Snarlboss if I can't take 2 or 3 other chariots, right? Maybe. I mean, again, -1 to hit, another source of -1 to hit is always welcome. So that's now, you know, another turn of -1 to hit army wide, potentially if you have enough chariots. Again, it's weird. It's going to take a lot of play testing with this guy to find out what's the right number of Snarlboss plus chariots that I want in the list before this guy makes sense, right? And also how good are the chariots on their own, which we're going to see in a little bit here. But I don't hate him. I mean, it's again similar to the moon ability. You can just go flying off into corners that nobody expects you to be in, right? 12-inch flyaway out of combat, and you do flyover mortals, like it's a lot, and it can go up to 18. So the fight right after without any buffs, I don't value that crazy high because it's just a chariot, and we've already kind of established that the chariot's main goal isn't damage. It's more to be picking off small heroes, which with his profile, he can absolutely do that.
I wonder if there's a world where this hero comes by itself. Like, yes, you don't take advantage of keeping up with the bosses, but if you look at the Glare, the Frazzlegit, and then the Frazzlegit's Flame Stream, they're both really good on their own. Now,
Right.
again, points, you know, independent.
Yep.
This could be just that early game, late game, annoying piece on the board that's durable enough with 9 wounds, 4 up health, has some shenanigans, but you're right 100%. This is not ogres. We're not charging in with, you know, Beast Claw Riders and smashing face. This is, as we said, it's much more Cruel Boys, where it's about movement shenanigans and chipping away and using those bases for board control and zone denial, rather than, if you want to do damage on the charge, you've got squigs.
Right.
Like, this is not playing in that space. But what's the world look like where I have squigs and chariots? What does the world look like where my slow moving Droggz have support by chariots?
Which is a pretty cool world, I think. But so, I really think with that note, we'll see probably the baby chariots maybe have a little bit more value.
Yeah, if you're gonna run multiple solo chariots and you wanted them to do something other than just like objective control, I think you definitely want to have a Snarlboss on War-Wheela. But to your point, where does the damage come from? Maybe you need Squig Herd, maybe you need something else.
Trolls with +1 attacks. There's got to be something else here, right? And again, like we talked about, if it's trolls, you're in this awkward place of being opposite sides of the wheel, so you have to be really careful about your planning.
Anything else about this? Again, I really like it on its own.
I like him. Yeah, I think, points matter, of course, especially onto your question of, do I take him alone? That is 100% a points question if I take him alone. So, but yeah, I think he has a lot of potential. -1 to hit is there's nothing to, nothing to laugh about, and he's fast. It's just, I think the biggest question for me is going to be him or normal chariot.
I guess it's a role to play, right? It's the role. A unit that needs no introduction, and it has one very, very, very clear role, and one that I'm so excited for because our shooting is hot garbage, is Doom Diver Catapult, and no unit deserves a wah more than this unit. Now, first off, let's talk about the range profile. I'm not even going to talk about the movement and the health, right? It is what it is. Just protect it. The Doom Diver, 24-inch range. 4 attacks, 4s to hit, 3s to wound, Ren 3 for 3. This is sexy, but wait, I have more. Shoddy Wing to Gitmob. You can re-roll. I can say that, but not Frazzlegit.
Exactly.
You can re-roll hit rolls for this unit's shooting attacks this turn. But, by the way, this is any shooting phase, not both phases. So covering fire is going to be delicious with this.
Delicious.
But for each hit roll that is re-rolled, subtract 1 from the Ren characteristic of this Doom Diver for the rest of the turn. Now, am I going crazy, or is this a sexy unit?
Yeah, man. The first time I saw this thing, I was just like, holy, this thing is amazing, right? Like, absolutely crazy on just kind of how broken this unit is. I mean, okay, not broken. It's definitely not broken, but what does it have going for it? It is a shooting unit in destruction. Already great. It's a shooting unit in army that has like no good shooting units. So it opens up covering fire, and it can do covering fire. There's plenty of shooting units in the game that just can't really do covering fire because they hit on 4s, right? It's like, well, this is kind of a bummer. But rerollable 5s, not too bad. This thing's crazy. Ren 3 as your starting baseline is crazy. So I don't, if I roll 4 dice and one of them misses, like, yeah, I'll drop a Rend for that. Or maybe I'm hitting on 3s because I alt attack if I'm shooting with this thing. Cool. 4 dice, I drop 1. I'll drop a Rend for that. I'll drop 2, depending on what my target is. I'll drop another Rend for that. I want all this. Like, re-rolling is huge. Making sure that damage goes through is huge. And it's just such a great profile, like such a great damage profile. If this thing is less points than a Mortek crawler, I kind of want to take it. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, it's shooting an army with no shooting, and it's good. It's literally good shooting. And it's super cool, dude. It's a Doom Diver. Like, it doesn't get much cooler than this in Goblins, right? Like, this is perfect. I'm so happy with this because there's so many times where you'll get like a scrap launcher and you'll be like, that's a cool model wasted because nobody's ever going to play it, right? Like, so awesome. This is super happy about the Doom Diver. Super happy about it.
I don't think I'll leave home without one in my list. I think 2 might be a trap, but 1 definitely great backfield home objective controller. It gives us an answer to Stormcast, Slaves to Darkness, Ossiarch Bone Reapers, anyone who has really good armor saves. It allows us to go into, to your point, the people who are shooting us off, the Fusiliers, the Lumineth Sentinels, anyone sitting in the backfield just chipping away at us, and we're just going to just take the punch. Your Trogs you mentioned earlier, you're concerned about being shot off the board. You've now got a response to them. So
29-inch threat range, it's crazy. And very importantly, this thing is Gitmob, so it gets retreat and shoot. So you can't lock this thing in combat, which is huge. As long as you're in the moon, right? Light of the moon. So again, even if you're not necessarily like, let's say this is the only Gitmob in your entire list, which is going to happen sometimes. So people are going to build their list. Hopefully by late turn, let's say you're playing trolls, by late turn is likely when you'd have retreat and charge anyway for Gitmob on turn 4 and 5, which is when you need it for this thing. If this is your splash, if you will, using magic terms, if this is your splash into Gitmob, it's going to get retreat and charge, which is awesome. Retreat and shoot and charge. You don't want to charge this thing, whatever. But retreat and shoot, meaning you can't lock it in combat. Because that's really the bane of allotting shooting units like Bliss Barb Archers, Sentinels.
Crawlers.
Once you lock them down.
You get
absolutely. So
they can't shoot.
Retreat and shoot. This is why you want retreat and shoot. And I'm really glad that GW is like, because they very easily could have given Gitmob retreat and charge and ignored shoot. This model alone is what gave them retreat and shoot. So, which is huge. So not being able to lock this thing down is very good.
So I think we're both a fan.
No kidding.
And because it just, like I really like a lot of the units in this book. Again, points dependent. So don't save up your pennies. Like if you're thinking about getting some Gitmob, like the Chariots are cool, the Wolves are cool. I don't know when the Doom Diver is going to come out. Again, points dependent. I think it just gives us something that we've been missing. We've been missing that long range or even medium threat. Like we've had no responses to any of this. We've had to be a pincushion. So I'm excited for some diversity and some new tools and some tactics that we can play around, and a really good home field back controlling objective. Like we don't have anyone that sits on the backfield other than like 10 stabbers.
What? I mean, you don't miss
the
what was it? The squig that shoots squigs? I mean, you didn't just want that instead?
my thematical, I missed.
What is that thing even called? I can't even remember. The
squig gobber. Squig gobber.
Okay, perfect.
And the colossal squig was the other one. We'll get that one eventually. We'll also get our snotling pump wagons back eventually.
Of course,
back from Blood Bowl. A couple of other quick ones we'll just power through, and we do have some Armies of Renown, being mindful of time. I think Colt and I could talk 10 years about Gitz and get nowhere. I think we are just passionate about this army. Snarlboss is going to obviously support some of your doggos. It's a decent cavalry hero. You've got a little boost when it comes to adding +2 to the charge rolls for friendly Gitmob cavalry. You have noticed that the chariots are war machines, not cavalry, but your doggos are going to be clearly cav. And then you do have an ability that is the Vicious Snarls and Great Howls, where once per turn in combat, any combat phase, if this unit charged, you can pick this unit and up to 2 friendly Gitmob cavalry within its combat range and get +1 attack on the companion melee weapons, which is good because they normally do more damage than the idiot on top.
Honestly, it's crazy to think that a Dankhold Trog had to roll a 3 up to give this ability to things, and he just does it for free. If the normal Snarlfang riders stay roughly at their same points, now are hitting on 3s. If they get +1 attacks on their dogs, I think him plus the normal Snarlfang riders that hit on 3s is actually super spicy, because 3s and 3s, what is it? 1 rend on Jaws or no rend? I think it might be no rend on Jaws.
I think it's no rend. I think it's
But
no rend 2 damage.
2 damage a pop, and you only have 2 attack space. Going to 3 attacks is a pretty big bump, right? Because the less attacks you have, that more that matters. I could definitely see him working with the normal Snarlfang riders that are already out. So
they're only 130 points. 130 points.
I know
for 5 models,
right? It could be real nice, especially if more people keep playing Feck with terrible saves. So I mean, depending on the meta, Feck, zombies, a lot of things really. The normal wolves can actually be an actual threat that does a lot of damage. Probably the highest damage dealing Gitmob package will be this guy plus 2 blocks of 10 Snarlfang riders. So,
and they've got the bows as well, so you've got a bit of shooting. Obviously, movement 12 plus 15, so it does bring some spice to that. Maybe where you said, potentially it could be hard to build a full Snarlfang. Well, maybe it's not all chariots, but your Gitmob is going to include a bunch of doggos, and that's the core. And your chariots and friends are just the support pieces.
Yep, exactly.
Other doggos. Now, this one's a really weird one for me because there's no musician, there's no banner. It doesn't give me any indication of how many models are in this unit without the pitch battle profile as well. I'm going to make a rough guess that it's a unit of 3 to 5 because it's a Wolfgit Retinue. So I don't think it's meant to play in the space of the Snarlfang riders, but I just don't know. It's health 2, control score 1. The big thing that it does, obviously, it has a very similar profile to the Snarlfang riders, which makes me think that it's not meant to be 5, it's meant to be 3, and it's meant to be like a cheap unit. And what it does is it supports the Snarlboss. So you can see here that while a friendly Snarlboss is within its combat range, it gives it a ward of 5 up. So it's a bodyguard to the Snarlfang. Maybe it comes with it. Actually, maybe it comes with the Snarlfang boss. I don't know. But what I do know is that there's this particular, it could be a package.
Yeah, I think this is kind of a whatever for the actual Snarlboss himself. Like, I probably don't care if he dies. But the first guy we talked to, the Dread Pirate or the Phantom, if you will, I can't remember his name. Does he have the Snarlboss keyword?
No, I went looking for that. I'll double check it while I'm with you now. No, it's also not. I don't think it's a keyword, but no,
it's just actually Snarlboss. Yeah, if it worked with him, I'd consider taking this. If it doesn't, since it doesn't, no, I'm not. Unless this is like dirt cheap point wise, I'm not going to touch this. Unless it's like Aether Wings levels of points, and I can just have it go fling off. I don't care about protecting my Snarlboss, man. He's dead the second he touches something. So whatever.
And if anything, I'm going to put my Snarlboss with the Frazzle Git to make sure that he doesn't get shot off. Like, I'd probably rather just do that.
I mean, if you're spending any points to protect a 100-point model on a wolf, like, you're probably doing something you shouldn't be doing. I mean, they might be cool. Maybe I'll just run them as Snarlfang riders and sneak them in.
It could be like the old. I don't know if you remember them. They were the first Underworlds warband for Gitmob.
Yes, rip the Snarlfangs.
Correct. It was like 3 models for 70 or 60 points. If they are like 60 or 70 points for 3 models, I'm considering this. This could be easy.
Oh, 100%. I'll anything for 60 or 70 points that moves 12 inches, I will consider that without a doubt. It's just
6
value.
wounds though. Like, it's not a lot.
Yeah, it's at that point. It's like, it's fast. I can throw 120 points, take the flanks or seize the center. That's all I care about.
I'm going to skip this because I don't think we have enough data for this one, particularly to make any informed decision on this one. And there's no indication of how big the unit is. And it's not in the box either, so I can't actually tell you.
Sure.
I think one of the few last war scrolls we have is the Chariot. We've been talking a lot about the Sunsteala Wheelas. Good overall package of things, right? Again, health of 6, move of 12, save of 4, has a little bit of shooting, has a little bit of melee. It does have this careering destruction ability in the movement phase. So this unit can move a distance up to its movement characteristic. It can pass through other models in combat range, but it can't end in combat. Then pick one enemy. Blah, blah, blah. We've seen something similar on the hero on Chariot.
I mean, based on its profile, it looks to be on par kind of with the Chaos Chariots as far as it. The damage profile looks a lot like the Chaos Chariot with Great Blade. And the ability does about D3 mortal wounds, add 1 to the amount of mortal damage for each model in this unit. So this can go up to a unit of 3. Probably honestly not the way I'm going to be taking these. I think you're way better off taking these solo because again, their job isn't really to deal damage. I think the only Gitmob in the entire book that's job is to deal damage is probably Snarlfang Riders. And even then, they have a lot of tech built into them too. So again, I expect this to be an 80 to 100 point unit that is meant to be super annoying and be super good at being annoying. And the crazy thing is a lot of these chariots don't even need the Gitmob sub-faction to kind of do what they do, as you'll know. Like, because we talked about that at the beginning, where they could kind of hop around and do things. All these chariots can kind of do that anyway, built in their war scroll. And they can do this when they're in combat, right? So like you don't even need retreat and charge and shoot for a lot of these, right? That comes more into play with the wolves and obviously the doom divers. So these are great. There's what I mean to say is you can take these and not have to go into the Gitmob sub faction, which is fantastic. So again, I love them. They're just a fast, hopefully very cheap little thing to run around and do battle tactics very well because they can go fly into back paces, grab objectives, and they're fast, man. They're super fast.
Yeah, I said it to you. I said it right at the start of the show that I can see a world where you take 1 or 2 chariots, you can take some of this stuff independently for your Trogs, your Squigs, your Moon Clan. Looking at some comparable war scrolls, your Chaos Chariot you mentioned is currently 80 points. Something similar as well would be like your Drake Spawn or your Scourge Runner chariots in cities. They're about 100, 110, 120. So I think anything more like a Stormcast Chariot in that 140 mark is too expensive.
Yeah.
For a single one, that is. But again, they might come as a pack of 2. I don't know at this particular point, but 80 points, 80 to 100 points probably feels fair. Any more than 100, I question why I would take 200 points for just.
Yeah, because then you have to start comparing to like Snarlfang Riders for a similar role, and those actually deal a decent, like respectable amount of damage on 3s and 3s. So
Couple more units we've got. I think this is the last one. It is the Snarlpack Cavalry. Now this does come in the box. This is the it comes with 6 of them. So I'm assuming either it's a unit of 3 and you can have 2 units of them of 3s. They're quite chunky. That's my guess. I can't see them coming as a unit of 6, but
yeah.
Picture by profile might tell me otherwise. 3 health. So I guess they're kind of the elite dogs, right? You've had health of 2. These are now health of 3. Movement 12, save of 4. Much more, I guess, combat-y, I guess. Although,
yeah.
Let me just triple check this because I don't like the fact that it says wound. No. The pointy stick definitely does wound on 5s. I just want to make sure that wasn't an error.
I know, man.
It's
like I was just complaining how they didn't get any charge bonuses, and someone out there's gonna be like, "Well, look, charge bonus." I'm like, "Cool," on 4s and 5s.
And it's so cool because you do get strike first if it charges. So that's delicious. The mark and territory should be purple. My apologies. You get plus if it charges, you get extra control score, which is delicious. You get the charge bonus, which is delicious. But that 5,
honestly, even a
so
4-up
much.
save is pretty delicious if we're gonna be honest for Gitz.
With 3 wounds.
Yep. But yeah, it's like I have this offensive charging unit that wounds on 5s. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but we went through the whole book pretty much here. Did you guys see a lot of ways to get +1 to wound? Because I didn't. Maybe I missed some, Coach, but I didn't see a lot of +1 to wounds.
No.
I mean, any. So I mean, like, so a unit, let's say it's unit 3, 13 attacks, right? Let's be generous. 7 of those go through. So 2 of those will go through with no rend and 2 damage for the rider. Like, 2? I mean, like, that's just
do me a favor, GW. Just do me a favor. Make it 3 attacks and wound on 4s. Like, I hate rolling dice. That's why I don't like shooters, because I'm like, I hate rolling redundant dice, rolling all these dice, looking for a couple of successes. Like, just cut it down to 2 attacks and hitting on 4s, like wounding on 4s. Like,
it's so bad. I really don't understand. You have Bounders as a baseline that do better than this, at least, right? You've got, and Bounders have
jumping. They're jumping up like idiots. Like,
Yeah. Inbounders get rend. You get no rend on this charge. Like these just seem. I mean, it kind of reminds me of the new Stormcast Paladors, which inexplicably are worse, even though they're the same type of horse thing than the old Paladors. Like they hit on 5s, and other Paladors hit on 4s. Why?
Yep.
I don't know, because they do. No, these seem really bad, man, and it's really frustrating because the model, fantastic, right? The model's fantastic. Charge +1 damage is, I mean, in a vacuum, charge +1 damage in an army full of retreat and charge, fantastic ability to have. Look at Night Haunt, right? For goodness sakes, they have a bunch of charge abilities that are super impactful. So wounding up just 4s and 5s is, I mean, it's just bad, man. I don't think there's like a world where, and the crazy thing is I know these are going to cost more points than Snarlfang Riders. I can feel it in my heart that these are going to cost more points than Snarlfang Riders, who are on 3s and 3s, and they're not pretending like the Riders are going to do something. These are pretending like the Riders are going to do something. I mean,
so when you compare, if I just jump in really quick, I've got the war scrolls in front of me, right? So I'm looking at the Snarlfang Cavalry. They have 3 attacks, 4s, 3s are obviously on the screen. When you compare them to the doggo attacks on the Snarlfang Riders, it's 2 attacks, 3s, 3s, no rend for 2. So you get one more attack, but you get a 1 less point to hit. So it's 4s and 3s.
right.
When you compare the idiot on top, you obviously can see here it's 4 attacks, 4s, 5s. On the Snarlfang Riders, it's 2 attacks, same profile. It's 4s, 5s, 1 damage, no charge bonus. But the difference as well is the Snarlfang Riders do have that 15-inch shooting attack, 2 attacks each, while this unit doesn't have shooting attacks. So if this unit is meant to be the elite version of the Snarlfang Riders, the Varangard air quotes of the Doggo lands, then I think that wound on 5 is really missing the mark, and I hope they revisit it with a 4 and say, sorry, we copied and pasted and forgot to update it like we did with the Web Spinner Shaman. But
and give him a rend too, like honestly. Like give him 1 rend, give him 4s and 4s. I mean, there's also the fact that the Snarlboss, again, having 2 attacks getting buffed to 3 is more important than 3 getting buffed to 4, just because math is funny like that. So it's just, I don't get it, man. These should also be hitting on 3s if the other wolves hit on 3s. It just seems bad. And again, I really do expect these to be more points than the Snarlfang Riders.
My only explanation for this, and I'm going to move on to the Armies of Renown, is that when you look at the model, there are 2 idiots on there. So maybe fighting with 2 idiots is just doubling the Snarlfang Riders rather than being some elite dude. And like the guy at the back is really hard trying to stab where he's trying to stab his friend. That's the only logic I have. That's the only logic I have. If you're buying this, you're doing it because it's 3 wounds and you're delicious with the Snarlfang Rider jaws rather than the pointy skewers. I think that's the high level.
And there's also the thought that they never meant for this to actually ever kill anything, right? They gave it a 4-up save, 3 wounds, and a lot of control. So maybe they're hoping the hope is you charge this in, hope a single dude survives, and then that's 6 control on an objective, right? Like that could be the mindset, but like it just seems like that's what Spider Riders want to do, and Spider Riders are better at it. So, which is crazy for me to say out loud that Spider Riders are better at something, for the record. But you know, it just seems like they're in a weird spot. You know, cool models, just rules I don't like.
This one feels like it's going to be a points dependent one. And given that it's, I was going to say, given that it's tied to this box, I keep doing upside down. I hope they revisit this and say it was an error or it's an errata. It is a great box. I've been really enjoying painting. Honestly, it's been really fun to paint. Wounding on 5s, I don't see them hitting on the tables very much unless they're really cheap. So,
and they're always going to have to compete with their little brothers. So they're always going to have to be better for points than the Snarlfang Riders.
Or hoppers,
which hit on 3s.
Any final comments before we get into the Armies of Renown? We've done.
Yeah. I think we're good to go. I think again, I just hope you're right about these guys because they're super cool looking.
They genuinely they are cool. I'm not trying to sell you the box, folk. Like I'm just excited for more Gitz models. Any more Gitz models is always good. I look at them. I generally like for a model, I'm inspired to run more Gitmob. Like they are cool as shit.
Yeah, I still think either the Dankhold Trog change or the unkillable Goblin Wolf guy. I mean, I think the unkillable Goblin Wolf guy is my new favorite model in this book as far as just the shenanigans you can pull. I know I'm going to retreat Kragnos out and end somebody's day with that. Like, it's crazy.
All right, let's talk. Let's talk about the regiments of the Armies of Renown. There are 2 of them, so I'm mindful of time. I hope you've enjoyed this discussion. Like, subscribe to all the YouTubey things, both for me, and go check out Let's Not on YouTube, and go check out all the Pokemon TCG goodness that Colt focuses on his channel. So, couple of things. Let's talk about the Armies of Renown. So, if you are enjoying your Gitmob and you're like, give me a world where I want more Gitmob, here's a couple of things. So, you've got the Droggz Gitmob. So, you give up your, for anyone who doesn't know, you give up your faction rules and artifacts and heroic traits for these 2 pages. So, page 1 and then page 2. You have to have the Droggz Da Sunchompa, and it must be your general. There's no negotiables.
Yep.
You can have any Gitmob units in your list. You can't include any regiments of renown, but you do get the faction terrain, which is really cool. That doesn't say that you can't have it. What do you get for it? In your deployment, there is basically, you can set up your army to outflank your enemy. So you basically null deploy, you put it on the side, and then you can see surprise your Gitz is in your movement phase. You can then set up those units on the battlefield edge, wholly within 6 inches, outside of 9 of enemies. You've then got 2 other abilities. Both are combat phase abilities, once per turn. One is in your any combat phase, one is in enemy combat phase. Glowering Light, which is any combat phase. Pick an enemy unit. Pick an enemy unit in combat with a friendly Droggz Gitmob unit that charged this turn. Roll a dice on a 3-up for the rest of the turn. That target cannot make a pile-in move when it's picking to fight. And then the other one would be pick a friendly Droggz Gitmob unit that's in combat with an enemy unit that charged this turn, not in combat, and did not charge to be the target. Roll a dice on a 4+. The target can immediately use the retreat ability as if it was your movement phase. Thoughts so far as we've explored the war scrolls? You know what you like, you know what you don't like. We know the context so far. Army of Renown.
Yeah, it's so it's cool. It's very thematic, and what I think that this does is it allows you to play Gloomspite Gitz in a way that's completely different than how you'd expect Gloomspite Gitz to play. So starting off, Deep Strike. Deep Strike's always good, even if it's ambush Deep Strike, right? Valuable thing, even on models that move. It's a little goofy because it's on models that move 12 inches and can fly 12 inches away and go take back objectives anyway. But even having one thing in Deep Strike makes your opponent play differently. So it's always valuable. Now, where this really comes into play is you take a million tiny chariots, and you play lockdown. So this plays a lockdown game. Stopping pile-ins is one of the most powerful abilities in the game, as well as one of the most negative play experiences for your opponent. I'm sure you guys all remember Sloppy Bile Piper or whatever, right? Shutting down pile-ins is massive. So the fact that this can do that every turn, but again, it's on a 3-up, means it's not like as consistent as the Sloppy Bile Piper used to be. I think it was him that did it. It was one of the 2 dudes that did it.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're a Sloppy Bile Piper.
So the idea on how you play this, you play a bunch of chariots. You tag a bunch of people in weird corners and edges. You fly over, they attack you, you retreat, and then you fly away with "This fight's not for me," and you stop them from piling in. So you're basically trying to pin and lock down your opponent the entire game while you score points. So really cool, really techy, really cool, Boise. If you do it really well and you get all your dice rolls and it's all working out, very miserable to play against as an opponent, because like they're like going to be trying to kill you. They can't because they can't pile in. They're going to try and kill you. They can't because you fly away. So it's really trying to kind of play like a cage game where you try and lock your opponent in a cage and stop them from playing the game, which again is a way to play the game that Gitz can't really do now. Some armies can, like Nurgle Flies can do it. In general, I probably wouldn't take this to a friendly game because it's, again, probably a pretty negative play experience, but it's cool that you can do this at all. Is it going to be really strong? Probably not super strong, because you have to rely on a lot of 3-ups and 4-ups, kind of like Cruel Boys, but, and you don't have a lot of things that can do a lot of damage since you're locked into Gitmob. Also, I forgot you have Sunchompa in this list. So you can also give out a bunch of -1 to hits. You can do his retreat as well. So yeah, this is really just meant to lock down, debuff your enemy, and stop them from playing the game. At least that's my impression of this one. What do you think?
I got a new analogy for you.
Okay, sure, hit me.
I love that you've been running with my Cruel Boys analogy for
Yeah,
Gitmob,
yeah,
but specifically for this,
yeah.
if you've ever thought to yourself, I want to play Gloomspite Gitz, but I identify as a Hurricane Lumineth Realmlords player. I want to be kangarooing all over and annoying the crap
No.
out of my opponent.
Oh,
This is Hurricane Lumineth Realmlords, but in Git form. You are chip damaging, you are moving, you're annoying, you're getting out of
oh,
combat, you are,
brutal.
you know, you are playing 4D chess
Yeah.
on the board. That is literally this army. Now, for a lot of people, if you're like, I don't want to care about the Bad Moon, throw it out the window. There's no interaction here at the Bad Moon
Yep.
whatsoever.
And you don't need it because the chariots already do it, right?
No, and it's also a bit of Beast Claw Raiders, Beasts of Chaos, where you've got that ambushing from the side, and that obviously you don't have the stackable rend from the Herdstone. But
Yeah.
again, this game is won by movement, and if you're someone who
Yes.
enjoys movement and you enjoy that type of shenanigans, this is going to be cool. And I can see this being popular potentially at like a world's tournament or a team's tournament where you need that almost like KO as well. KO can be very
Yeah.
uninteractive, not as much power as KO, but that's kind of my read of this so far. Yep. It'll be for some people and it won't be for most people. But for the people who do enjoy it, they're going to love this.
Yeah, this is going to be like, I'm going to play the game. I'm going to score more points to you and I'm going to win. I'm going to kill nothing and you're going to table me, but I'm still going to win this game. Like it's a kind of, like I said, a miserable play experience for your opponent. But I mean, it's crazy when it works. It's crazy. It's like watching fireworks go off when a list like this works.
It'll be annoying because it won't be a negative experience. It'll be like, what do I do with this person? Like,
yeah, that's true. At least you can kill all my models eventually.
What are they doing? Like, what craziness have they got?
Yeah.
This doubles down on the other abilities. So you can see here you get 2 command traits to choose from, or heroic traits, sorry. 1 artifact, 1 spell, and then you do get Mork's Mighty Mushroom, which let's ignore that. You can avoid that entirely by going universal.
It's dumb.
2 heroic traits to choose from. I'd love you to tell me which one's your favorite. Is you either could go stick 'em and run, where each time this unit uses the retreat ability, or the careering destruction, which was that rule on the Sunsteala Wheelas.
Yep.
Before this unit, before moving this unit, pick an enemy unit in combat, roll a d3 on a 2-up, do some mortals.
Yep.
Or while this unit has no damage points, friendly Droggz Gitmob units have a ward of 6-up, while they're wholly within 9 inches of this unit.
I have no idea why Plucky Git has the requirement that I'm uninjured. That's just silly. Like what 6-up ward requires, other than this one, requires me to be completely undamaged. But I probably still take Plucky Git because, again, this army, in my opinion, doesn't win by killing. Killing is nice when it happens, but it's not going to be, you're not going to kill a lot with this army, right? You have no rend. You got a couple guys that do 2 damage. Normal chariots don't really do that much damage. You got a few plink damage, a few chip damage, whatever. So Plucky Git's probably better because it just means that you're going to stay alive just that much longer. And the longer you stay alive, the more you keep your opponent in quote unquote their cage, right? With the no pylons and such and the runaways. So probably Plucky Git is probably the play.
I'm going the other way. I'm going
really? Okay.
It takes 1 point of damage. And you've lost your ward.
I mean, yeah, but if everything's locked in combat, how are they going to get to my guy with Plucky Git? No, I get you. I understand what you're saying. It's dumb that it shuts off with a single damage, but like, again, if they're shooting him and he's not the one keeping them locked into a cage, is that fine? That seems fine.
I think what it does do, though, is it forces you to be using rally on this hero just purely to keep the ward. True. So if you put away 1 command point just to keep this rally, yeah, maybe, but you've got to. You're now spending 1 of your 4 points just to use your heroic trait. So
that's true.
Both are fun, but like they're not amazing.
Speaking of, can you resurrect chariots if they're a unit of 2 or not, or does it say no war machines?
You would have
the new loose shrine.
So I'm pretty sure. Let me.
Sorry, throat.
While I
Yeah,
look at that, you
sure.
read out the artifact. You read out the artifact for the folks at home.
Perfect. Yep. So the artifact is the Glareface's Grin. So pick a point on the battlefield within 9 of this unit. Each visible enemy unit within 3 inches of that point is the target. So again, it's just pick a point, blow up, deal D3 mortal wounds to everybody on a 2-up. Again, and to Anthony's point, you really want, if you're going to be going with stick him and run, and you're going to be counting on a lot of chip damage from these abilities, which can start to add up. Having that Glareface Grin is nice because it's another source of chip damage. So this chip damage does add up, right? I mean, just look at anybody who ever plays Croak, right? Enough D3s, or sorry, the weird Tzeentch Chariot list as well. Enough D3s will eventually cause some damage.
And then Frazzle Blast as well, being the only spell that you get. So you don't get the other spell lore, which unfortunately you lose Hand of Gork. Basically, you can do crit to hits, which is kind of nice.
It's kind of nice, but it doesn't work on companion weapons, which is where I would really want it in a Gitmob focused list, because that's my main damage is Snarlfang Riders right now. So, on like your hero on a chariot, it's not bad. On the dude himself, he already has crit mortals, so they don't stack. So you'd have to do it on like the boss. Again, it's okay. It costs, it's a 5 cast. You're probably gonna be casting manifestation lores with, your only dude that's even casting is your guy, your little shaman boy. So you probably don't have that many casts to begin with.
No, unless you're doubling up on the Frazzle Git.
Right.
You asked a question about the Bad Moon. It didn't change, so it's still pick a friendly non-hero, non-monster, non-war machine.
Okay, non-war machine. Okay, just want to double check that it was non-war machine, because that never really came up before. Okay, so no war machines.
Cool. No, so if the chariots were either starting units of 2 or you could reinforce them, you can't bring them back at half strength. So it's only your doggos that could be brought back.
Which is still good. I honestly think that Snarlfang Riders are good for this Gitmob set.
Before I move into the other Army of Renown, what's your any summaries, any final thoughts on the Gitmob Army of? Is this something that you would take to a tournament? Do you think it would do well? Is this a narrative fun list? Like, what's your summary?
I'm already thinking if I tried to take this to a tournament and do well, the mental gymnastics I'd have to go through to make this worth it would be tough. I would have to test it, man. Like this is one that it's too hard to say and how it performs in the meta, because it could honestly just fall apart. And the biggest part is if you don't roll that 3 up to stop pile-ins, you don't roll that 4 up to escape, it falls apart. So I think the dice rolls might make it a little too inconsistent for like a big tournament play. But just as a goofy thing where I have a bunch of chariots jumping around, it seems super fun. I think to play it right, you have to have a lot of Gitmob though. Obviously, because I expect all of their points will be very low. So I think nobody will be running this right out the gate. But I wouldn't. I'm gonna say this. I wouldn't be surprised to see this 5-0 to GT, a major GT. Makes perfect sense. Somebody hit it. Somebody hit the right matchup dependent. This is terrifying. Like against something like Lumineth, this will just reduce them to rubble. So like there's some things where this is incredibly too terrifying for certain armies to deal with, and some that are you're just gonna like run this into Slaves of Darkness. Like, cool, I can only get 2 of my Varangard in. You're still dead. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and you can't do any damage to me. Cool, I'm Slaves of Darkness. I win. So again, it's pretty matchup dependent as well.
You would need the best run in the history of the world to go 5-0. If you do go 5-0, I'll get you onto the channel and we'll talk about this.
Exactly.
My feel is that this is good for like an RTT, a one-day tournament at your local store. I can see this being good at like a teams tournament where you can deflect some matchups and you can bring something spicy to the mix. Would I take this to a GT? No, I think I'd be fried by day 1. But for some people who want something completely different, this definitely is very different to traditional Git. So,
agreed. Very different.
The other Army of Renown, and I was excited to see this come back. It's because it is Scragrot's Da King's Git. So this is a Scraggy-based Army of Renown, same rinse and repeat T and C. You're giving up your traditional artifacts, command traits, a Bad Moon, blah, 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 blah. Scragrot has to be in your list, has to be general. You can include any Moon Clan units. You do get your Loon Shrine. I don't know why it has 0 to 1. Is there a world where you can ever get more than 1 Loon Shrine? But I will take that. If there's a way to get more Loon Shrines and Loon Shrines become Loon Shrines like the Babushka dolls or whatever they are, like, give it to me. You can take up to 2 non-Troggoth heroes, and you can't include Regiments of Renown.
Yeah.
What do you get for it? So the moon and the loon, while a friendly unit is wholly within 9 inches of a Scraggy, they get +5 to their control scores of a friendly non-squeak moon clan. And then instead of rolling the dice to determine the movement characteristic, they basically brought the bad moon rule into Scraggy, so you get the 4 instead of the random movement. You also get the King's Guard, so while a friendly Troggoth unit is within the combat range of a friendly hero, it has a ward of 4 up. It's basically a bodyguard, and then, for every successful ward, you ping it over to the Trog. Finally, you've got Daloon King's Court. Once per battle in the deployment phase, you can pick D3 friendly non-unique hero King's Gitz, so not Scraggy, and that do not have an enhancement. Give that hero 1 enhancement from the King's Gitz Army of Renown, and I'll show that to you in the next page. And because they are given in deployment, you don't have to declare them on your list submission. Should you take this to a tournament, you just pick it, very similar to the Honor Guard rules that we do now. You don't list them on your tournament list. Colt, so far, thoughts?
Pretty bad. To be honest. So let's start with, you get a 9-inch Moon Aura off a Scragrot that works for your Squigs and for non-Squig Moon Clan, notably not Spiderfang. So you get those 2 abilities, which is fine. It's a 9-inch aura, but you don't get the moon. So your whole moon is now just Scragrot and the Endless spell if you take the Endless spell. Whatever. Next thing, the King's Guards, right? You take combat range of friendly heroes. So you basically, Trolls are now bodyguards. Scragrot already's got a 4-up ward. Let's get that out of the way. He doesn't need this. He doesn't need this rule at all. The King's Guards. The King does not need guards. Weirdest part of this, right?
The Fungoid Cave Shaman.
Yeah, so it'd be a Fungoid Cave Shaman. It would be somebody else, right, that would get
Loon
this.
Boss.
It would
Loon
be,
Boss.
I guess, non-hero Troggoth unit. So it can't even be like a Dank Hold or anything else. So what this is going to be doing is going to say, okay, so your Fungoid gets a ward, and now your Trolls are easier to kill. Speaking of, your Trolls also don't get -1 to rend anymore because you don't get that moon ability. So that's bad. So now you're easier to kill Trolls, are even easier to kill because they can just target your hero, and they have to allocate the damage to the Trolls who no longer have a ward. So now your Trolls are basically just tissue paper because they're just a 4-up. They're just a 4-up save with no ward if they target the heroes that are next to them, right? But I mean, again, the hero itself gets a ward. It's just the damage gets passed over. So again, the Trolls are easier to kill, but the hero's harder to kill. So again, it makes this weird dichotomy, of course. Then the next thing we get is extra enhancements. We'll talk about what those are, right? So, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, and I was just going to double down on you and say they also don't get the Trog Herd healed D3 after they fight. If you were going to build into Trogs, you lose that as well. So if you were going to do it, I think the points cost. I mean, there clearly won't be a points difference between King's Gitz Trogs versus regular Trogs.
Yep.
You're taking them and they're going to be overcosted, and you're going to
Exactly. And you can only take 12 of them to begin with. And we just talked about how much better and cooler the Dank Holds are. You can't be wasting slots on those guys. Why would you be wasting slots on those guys? I guess maybe because they don't have a ward anyway. Who knows? All right. So, but anyway,
what if they could be Fell Warders? What if I'm throwing shit at a board? I'm throwing shit at a board and hoping it sticks. Maybe I vomit on you if you come for that Fungoid Cave Shaman that's clearly critical to the success of my list.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Colt's not even biting. Let's just move on.
No, it's Fungoids are Fell Warders are still in a tough place. They need to be cheaper than Rockouts at least.
Yeah, I tried. I tried.
I appreciate it. Okay, so let's start with the artifacts since we just realized we can give 2 of these away to our little tiny heroes.
And there are 3, as you can see here. You got Moonshone, Moon-Honed Shiv, Loonstone Medallion, and whatnot of prestige. Go for it.
Perfect. So first off, we can only take 2 of these, and because we can only have 0 to 2 heroes, correct? If we go back, non-Troggoth heroes. Jump back a page for me.
Yeah, but you can still take other heroes. You can still. You can take any Moon Clan, but only 0 to 2. Oh, the
Okay. So, sorry, we could definitely take all of these. So
yeah,
if we
'cause
want
you
to take
get
them all, we have to take 4 heroes. Okay, perfect. Sorry. Anyway,
oh, yeah, because you have to have Scragrot, which you have to have Scragrot, and
yep.
obviously Scragrot can't take an artifact. You
And then
would
you have
get
a free
1
one anyway from a hero. Oh, we need 5 heroes if we want to take them all, which is really goofy because Scragrot can't take one. We get one for free when we
yes.
take a hero. And if we want to take, oh, so no, 4 heroes.
No,
It's 4
4,
heroes. I was
4,
right the
4,
first time.
4. It's all right, math's
Okay.
hard.
So you can fundamentally get all of these if you want. So let's see what the cool, awesome things we get for being into King's Gitz. Pick one of the unit's non-companion melee weapons. Add one of the attack characteristics for the rest of battle. In addition, each time it retreats, add one to the attack characteristic for the rest of the battle. I mean, we don't really have that many strong. I guess this is mostly we care about on like a Mangler Squig, maybe.
I don't want to attack characteristics for weapons. Pick a unit non-companion. It has to be a Mangler Squig Loon Boss.
It has to be
Or
somebody, or maybe because it has to be Moon Clan, so it can't be trolls. I mean, it's honestly pretty cool on a dank, but you can't take a dank in this list, because they're not Moon Clan.
Because you can take it like a Loon Boss on Giant Cave Squig,
Yeah,
or you
he
can
doesn't
do
hit
Mangler
super
Squig.
hard. But yeah,
No,
unfortunately, this is locked to non-companion. Also, I think it would be pretty spicy.
correct. That's the key there, right? It's only the idiot on top, not the actual. Otherwise, the Mangler would be incredible.
Yep, exactly. So next, Loonstone Battalion. Again, pretty cool on a Mangler, actually, right? Because we can have a word of 6 contesting objective that is not being contested by any other friendly units. So that's exactly where Mangler Squig is a lot of the time, all alone on an objective, deep in enemy territory. So he's got a 5-up ward. Pretty good. He's still pretty fragile, but I'd rather have a Mangler Squig with a 5-up ward than not have a Mangler Squig with a 5-up ward. And again, this is the hero variant, right? Hero Mangler Squig. And the last one, it's the same thing that we saw kind of in the last regiment round. They must really like printing this. Pick a point. I think it's exactly this. It's written exactly the same. The whatnot of prestige, where you pick a point 9 inches away and do the D3 to everybody in range there, or 3 things within range. Is it everything or yeah, everything. So it's kind of like the Seraphon where they blow up a terrain. But importantly, this is the end of every single turn. So it actually, again, if you put it on something tanky enough or something you can just hide behind the back lines, you can keep pinging a point. So if your opponent does clump up or castles up, this actually really quickly adds up as long as they don't kill that small hero. It probably means they focus on killing that small hero pretty quick. So I actually really like the artifacts. Probably, I think the best one is probably Whatnot of Prestige, just because it goes off at the end of every single turn, then followed by the medallion, then the shiv. It's unfortunately the riders are typically not the guys that you really want getting the buffs. It's usually the companions. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, like while you were talking, and I appreciate you took over from my job.
Sorry about that.
No. Because I was looking at the Loon Boss on Mangler Squig versus the
Yeah.
Loon Boss on Cave Squig to see, and they're basically similar profiles. Like I think
Right.
the Loon Boss on Mangler is 5 attacks, 4s, Ren 1 for 2. On the Cave Squig, there's a charge bonus. So if you were really trying to make the most of the Loon Hone Shiv, probably doing the Loon Boss on Cave Squig, but
Yeah.
as a complete package, obviously the Mangler Squig with the Mangler attacks clearly is superior. And then you also get some bonuses with the Bite the Moon ability and things like that. So if I was going to do it, I'm probably taking the Loon Boss on Mangler Squig.
Yeah.
So I would tend to agree with you there. I mean, the Loonstone Medallion, if you're playing into like manifestations and spells are important, keeping it around, the Loonstone, for example, would be awesome. Like, get a unit of 20 Moonclan Stabbers, and then, block off the objective, get yourself that 5-up ward protection. But it's a bit of a slog.
Yeah, agreed. All right, I'll bring the heroic traits back to you though. You can go through those real quick.
I appreciate it. Like I said, I was just looking at the war scrolls to see if there's any insight I could add. But you're right. Like the idiots on top don't do a lot, and it's always the mount that does the most damage. It's unfortunate you can't pick it. I'm glad you ranked it. I was going to ask you what your 1, 2, 3 was, and I would probably agree. Depending, yeah. I mean, what Loonstone Medallion and whatnot is probably close. And then, should I have an extra hero, I would go Moon Honed, but I wouldn't go get an extra hero just to get that extra artifact. It's not that strong. The two options you've got there for the heroic trait is the King's Adjutant, which is a really lengthy one. Once per battle, end of your turn, you can pick this ability if you have not used the Bad Moon, Loon Shrine, Moon Clan, Loon, blah, 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 blah. Basically, set up a replacement unit more than 12 inches, and it's basically just a free comeback. It's too long to read, and I don't feel like reading it. The glare, look, it's obviously it is what it is. It interacts with the Bad Moon, and you basically don't spend a CP to bring some things back.
Yeah.
The other one is the Glare Jester. So pick a friendly infantry unit within 3 inches of this and is not in combat to be the target. Roll a d3, add the roll to the distance. The target can use the move ability in the phase. If the target ends a move in the phase within 3 inches of the hero, inflict a number of mortal damage to this hero equal to the roll. That one is the one I like more, although I can see the argument for getting the free replacement once per game, basically for a unit.
Yeah, I think the replacement one's real goofy because as I understand it, the normal Loon Shrine Resurrect happens at the end of your turn. And if you have multiple effects that are happening at the end of the turn, you should be able to assign the order. Meaning that you could do the King's Adjutant and then do the normal Loon Shrine Resurrect, as long as you do them in that order. So unless this is probably gonna get FAQ'd, but as it stands, I believe you should be able to bring back 2 things with it, even though that's clearly not what they're intending to happen here. Because when you have 2 things happen at the same time, you assign the order of them.
I don't think that's how it is, but
okay.
What I think it is doing, and probably the key difference here, is that when you look at the Bad Moon Loon Shrine, you get half the amount of models to the target.
Right.
This doesn't say that. So is this saying that I get the unit at full strength rather than half strength?
It is, but it only works on things that aren't reinforced. So if I've got 6, I know. So if I've got 6 trolls, I can't even do it. Right. Which is so goofy. And I mean, in general, I like that they have non-reinforced because that's a design space they haven't explored. So that makes me happy for GW to know that they're going to start using the keyword not reinforced, because that opens up a big design space. But it makes this really dumb because like, oh, instead of getting 2 trolls back, I can get 3 trolls back. And if I'm taking the King's Gitz, I need blocks of 6 trolls anyway, probably. So instead of getting 10 stabs back, you can get 20 stabs back. Like, it's just, yes, it's better, but it's just silly, man. It's silly that it's so incredibly limiting on what you can do. And to be honest, I really only want to use it if it works the way that I was describing before, which is bring back 2 things, right?
And I would only want it if I get back for full strength, because then a unit of like 10 Boingrots is delicious.
Oh yeah, unit 10 Boingrots, a unit of 6 trolls, and all of a sudden I'm on board with this. As it stands, not on board with this. I'm not on board with this one at all, man. Non-reinforced locking that in was pretty big. It's a pretty big deal. Let's be honest.
And by the way, when I went yada, yada, yada on that proves why you should not write a yada, yada, and you should read your players' packs. You should read all the rules. Because that obviously was critical and changed the context. Last 2 things really quickly, and then we'll wrap up. This has been a long show. Appreciate everyone who has gone along, but there's a whole bunch of new units, more than anyone has had in the past. A whole bunch of changes as well. So I appreciate Colt and all the insights that we've been able to provide in the discussion. The last 2 ones are quite good. You've got the Loon King's Command, casting value of 5. Blah, blah, blah stuff. Actually, I'll read it out because we got caught out last time I said blah, blah, blah. Pick a friendly King's Gitz Wizard to cast the spell. Visible friendly unit within 18 to be the target. Roll you 2d6. Until the start of your next turn, add 1 to the attack characteristic of melee weapons used by champions in this unit. If the target uses the rally command, you make 1 additional rally roll, and then you add 1 to the target's control score.
It's so bad. It's like, it's just the champion. Like, and the best thing is like, oh man, Araka, they don't even have champions. It's so bad. It's crazy. It's like, imagine putting this on Stabas or something. It's like, my champion's got 3 attacks now, or whatever, 4 attacks now, whatever it is, man. It's
so
like, what?
Cole, you and me are playing, right? And you're like, right, okay, you've only got 1 unbind. I've got 3 spells to cast. I'm going to cast the Loon King's Command. You're like, what does that do? Do I need to stop this? I get +1 attack on my champion. Bro, you can have it. You know what? Don't roll it. You can have it. It's free.
Yeah, I don't even want you to roll
waste my time. Don't waste my time. Have it.
Have it. It's yours. Like, it's, and like you can't even stack this on the same unit, right? Even though it's unlimited. So it's like it's just so bad. It's so bad. It's funny. Like I can't
Actually,
believe that they wrote this spell. I
I've got
really can't.
I've got one crack idea, and I hope it's going to work. Please,
Okay. Okay.
GW, let me
Okay.
work. Oh, you jerks! I was hoping that Loon Smasher Fanatics had a champion.
They don't even get one.
No, there's no champion.
Perfect. Awesome.
Oh, I'm like, imagine. Look,
Yeah. Sure.
one,
Yeah. On
one
something
extra
that.
D6. I'll take the one extra D6.
Sure. Yeah. No, I'm here for it, dude. Yeah, it's like any of the things that it could hit, like we're talking bounders, hoppers, stabbas, shootas, like, and it's not even Spider Fang, like, so we can't even throw them into the list. All right. Or maybe we can.
Even if it was like pick 3 King's Gitz units, like
Okay, you
even
could
that's
pick,
like
yeah, you could pick Spider Fang, I guess. As long as it was their Moon Clan, which they are. Or no, they're not. They're not. So you probably can't even include Spider Fang in this whole army. Never mind. It's bad, dude. It's really bad. It's like one of the worst spells I think I've ever seen.
and then there's the other one, which is a casting value 5, right
Uh,
right Git in the right place. Basically, stuff happens, and the target weapon has anti-hero until the next turn. It's not too bad for like a unit of stabbers.
no.
Like, the unit of stabbers, like if you get charged by like, a big bad monster and a hero monster with all the volume of
Yeah,
stabby,
I mean,
it's not
as
bad.
long as it's not combat weapons, it's not bad on shooters either. I mean, shooters are still bad, but giving shooters rends take like this is a spell that I like to have because it's situational. If I'm going up against Sons of Behemoth, that's just all heroes. I would cast this spell a lot, right? So this is fine as a situational spell. Anti-hero is weirdly like it's sometimes it'll do nothing, sometimes it'll do stuff, but yeah.
All right. So to summarize King's Gits,
Dude,
same
it's
question.
awful.
Same question I asked you is: are you going to be taking this to a tournament? Is this going to be fun? Is this casual RTT? Where are
Dude,
you at with King's Gits?
I don't even think it's fun, man. I think it's just bad. Like I think King's Gets used to be so cool. I think it's just I wouldn't take it to an RTT. I wouldn't take it to a tournament. I don't think it's fun. Like you're gonna bring out trolls and then you don't get moon abilities with them. It just feels bad, man. Like I think all of the other stuff you get in the normal book are more fun and just better. It's just a bad Army of Renown. Sorry.
So when they had that as a sub faction in third
Yeah.
edition, I started with it.
Yep.
And then I moved very quickly to. Do you remember the wizard one? Remember there's that little
Yeah.
Kabbalist of wizards, and basically
Yep.
all of those idiots got like, bring that one back. Give me a
Yeah.
reason to bring like 5 Fungoid Cave Shamans and just like go wizard it up.
Yeah, agreed, agreed. Or like make a really cool spider one, right? Or a really cool squig because we still have Trug's Trogherd from the index, right? Um, already, which again is not necessarily great anyway because you typically just run the normal one. But like make something really cool with spiders somehow. I don't know, but that thing Kings gets, whew, it's bad. You'd have to try real hard to make it good. But
Put it
that
back in the
spell, man,
oven. Put it back in the oven. Try again and
exactly.
deliver me a Jaws of Mork. It's not what I ordered,
Yes.
Mr. or Mrs. Server. Go take it back to the kitchen. Go get me a Jaws of Mork.
Yeah, dude, I'll take anything over that. But that spell, whew, it's fire.
just don't make me cast it, folks. So obviously we've gone through very rich, detailed, and obviously I want to chat to you about points. I want to chat to you about what a list looks like, and it's really hard. One, because right now all we've got is what's in this preview, and in this particular box. It probably could be a month or two until the Battletome and the other models are released, like the Doom Diver. I don't know. I don't have dates. I don't know. All I know is what I've got over here. This stuff is not going to be tournament legal, folks, so don't even have to stress about this just yet. Your tournament organizer is not going to accept this because it's not released across the board. So if you're thinking about getting into Gitmob, grab the box, grab the book, Element Game, Warp 5 Minis, Gap Games, link below, blah, blah, blah. But more importantly, you've got time.
Catapults.
Well, I was going to say, like, grab this Gitmob
Yeah,
army
yeah,
starter
absolutely.
box to begin with. You've got probably a good 4 to 6, maybe 8 weeks to build that up, get them painted.
True.
Then there's probably a second release where you get the rest of the stuff, the Wizard Chariot, the Hero Chariot, the Doom Divers, some of the other things. And then you can pick and choose and add whatever into your Gits, your Gits. Any final thoughts, comments, things that you want to say? Obviously, representing House of Hobbies, thank you for sending Colt my way. This has been obviously very insightful. And I hope Gitz players have gotten some new ideas, some ways to think about the Bad Moon, think about their units, maybe think about the units that they might want to start building into their collection, even thinking about how they might diversify and think about, right, do I add Droggz? Do I add Squigs? Do I add, Moon Clan? And think about now how the Bad Moon's going to work for you. But Colt, bring us home.
Yeah, I'd say the final thing I want to say is even if I didn't like something like the Snarl Pack, for example, right? I think they're in a bad place. You can absolutely make them work, and I think that's a really cool thing about Age of Sigmar. You can absolutely use them as a cool objective taker. There's where there's a will, there's a way, and some of the most creative winning lists come out of people doing weird things. Like the list that got second at Worlds had what, 3 catapults in it or 2 catapults? It had 2 catapults in it for more tech crawlers. Nobody was touching those. So again, if you like the models, you want to play with the models, don't necessarily worry yourself too much about, is this meta? Is this super good? Just play the game, have fun, honestly. And I think that there's a lot of ways to do this in this book, especially with the Gitmob Army of Renown. I think that's going to be a really crazy, fun experience. And it's just a weird way to play the army. So I think that's all I got, man.
I've got a team tournament in March. If it was legal, I actually would half consider taking it because that would be useful shenanigans. And I think to your point as well, yes, we harped on how negative we were on this thing hitting on 5s.
Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't let that stop me from buying this box because
agreed.
Honestly, one, a Gitz player will buy their collection because we're insane and we love the models. But 2, these things are easily changed. So if you're looking at the box, whether you click my link or not, I don't care. The point is, I obviously appreciate it, but the point is, don't let a hitting on 5s on one part of this model stop you from buying this collection because it is actually really cool.
Yeah, and Games Workshop shows us they're willing to take in feedback and say, hey, this isn't working. People aren't taking this. Why? Let's try and fix that. A perfect example is this dude, right? Nobody was taking him. Still my favorite model in the entire box. And his glow up is insane. He's basically murder lusting, except he has to go into combat. He can't murder lust away, which the fact that Khorne can do that, little cowards anyway. So again, if something's not good now, it absolutely does not mean it's not going to be really good later. So
final question. How many Doom Divers are you going to get?
3. I'm going to get 3 of them, man. I see a world where I can run up to 3 of them, and I think it's a pretty cool world. So
I'm 1, possibly 2.
Awesome.
But I don't have big grapefruits like you. Any shout outs, any people, if people want to chat to you, again, you've got a great YouTube channel. Don't do Warhammer content that I'm aware of. Let's not. I'll tag it down below. Go check out your channel. Didn't even know that when I booked you, but glad I did. Any shout outs, any love, anything you want to say to the folks?
Yeah, a huge love to the House of Hobbies team. So we're a local Arizona group. We run now 2 golden ticket events in Arizona every year. So one in March and one in September. So if you want a chance to come out and compete, absolutely should come out and compete with House of Hobbies. We've got a Discord too that anybody can jump in, ask questions. And then just, a huge shout out to the community, right? To the judge staff we got over here, the team in California with Tom, the TOs, Madigan, and all these others that help me interpret the rules. Honestly, just a great group of people. And the other Goblin players that make me better, like my buddy Zach Tipton plays a ton of Goblins. Tad plays a ton of Goblins. Greg Brewer plays a ton of Goblins. Like in the region, we have a lot of other good Goblins players, and we all kind of put our heads together to try and figure out the best we can. I know a lot of them are looking forward to this video. So.
And I'm excited to see everyone, and just following on with Discord. I clearly know I've got a Discord, big Discord when it comes to goblins. Come talk to us. I'm very curious on how the list building is going to come out of this, because I think there's going to be a lot of crazy tech that's going to come out. Like on the surface, we're like Doom Divers.
I know.
I reckon there's going to be a lot of secret tech that people are going to work out, and I can't wait to see how this book is picked apart by seasoned experts like yourself. But Colt, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I look forward to hanging out, and hopefully we get a game one day. Who knows, LVO or something. But that's it. Hope you enjoyed the preview. Hope you like this. Actually, I just realized you got the moon.
Ooh, that's pretty.
Moon. The lore, by the way, is very fun. Like when you start listening to the lore and hearing what they're talking about.
Hey, no spoilers really on the lore. Cool. Let them read that on their own. No,
I'm not 2+ tough, dog. You're not getting the lore from me yet. But it is actually cool, and you hear about why there's this focus on the sun rather than the moon, and how it all it's very, very cool. It's inspired me a little bit on the hobby side as well. But we're kickstarting a different conversation, so I need to end this stream. thank you all. Thank you, GW. Thank you for you all listening. Thank you, Colt. And yeah, I chat to you all later. Bye, stuff. Bye,
Have a good one,
bye,
guys.
bye. Thanks for hanging around until the end. I hope you enjoyed that video and you walked away with a few new ideas. Now, if you did, I would love it if you pressed like on the video, as well as left me a comment with your thoughts. The conversation will continue over on Discord, and the link is down below in the episode description. I also want to give a massive shout out to the AoS Coach patrons and YouTube members who are supporting the channel and the growth that you're seeing here. So cheers, you are all bloody legends. And until next time, don't roll a double one on a spellcast.